Hello, my beautiful blossoms, blooms, and buds. Sorry I'm a little late today. Was working on my Zuzzy Lang cosplay and I just finished a part of it, so I had to tie the knot on it and clean up a little bit. So I am sorry for being slightly late, but I am here now and I am ready to read. Um, so I had a fun weekend this weekend. Oh, wait. I totally skipped over everything but my basic intro. Welcome to book 4, part 3 of Peerless. I'm very excited because we've been having a lot of the same mini cliffhangers that this author absolutely loves. We left off on yet another interesting point last time. So I'm excited to see that. But before that, logistics. So, this is a chill stream. What that means is that I will be chatting with my lovely book garden. I will be chatting with myself, and I will probably be talking to or about the book, and may occasionally look up something. If that's not really your flavor, which it's not everyone's, that is completely okay. But maybe stick around. You might enjoy it and be surprised. If not, still okay. Anyway, I am not sponsored. I do this simply because I can and because I want to get these books out here. I love Don May and this form of literature and want to share with as many people as possible. So I do it because I can. I do not own anything, nor am I sponsored, and the only thing I own is the physical copy that is resting behind me and my time, and sometimes not even that. But I think that's almost it. I am not a native speaker, so there are points where I will probably say things in a very interesting and or comical way. I am completely open to suggestions and or corrections. Just be polite about it, please. There are events in here. Hello, Chichi Kiki. How are you today? That potentially are triggering. I have never read this series before, and so I don't always know when they're coming up. Sometimes I can predict where, hey, might have a trigger moment coming. But if you are listening to this live, thank you, first of all. But also, there may be some triggering things, and kind of be kind to yourself. If you hear that stuff's starting to get darker and think that potentially there may be something that triggers you, maybe wait a little bit and see or come back to it at another time. If you are watching this after the live, then if you'll know whether or not there's something potentially triggering because there will be a notification in the title, there will be a summary in the description, and there will be a timestamp clearly marked trigger. So be good to yourself. I think that about covers the logistics, and I am good, and I'm glad that you are. Well, I'm mostly good, Chichi Kiki. I'm glad you're good though. I think I'm getting a cold because I feel and you will hear the sniffles and got a little bit of throat funk. So next live stream, my voice will probably be much deeper as it gets when I get a cold. So you have that to look forward to. Mentally, I'm doing great though. I've been working really hard on the Zuzzy Lang cosplay and just going really well. I still have quite a bit to do, but I've got the robe dyed, I've got the other robe prepared, I've got the shoulder scale bits done. I have a good part of the belt done. Sunvi, welcome. Hello. It's your first time at the live, so very welcome to you. How are you doing tonight? Usually at the beginning of these live streams, if you have not been to one before, we like to chat a little bit, see what's going on with everyone, what's new. On the Tuesday lives, First time and good. I'm glad. On Tuesdays, we usually like to also go over what's going on this weekend or this past weekend. So we were just kind of covering that. So feel free to share. Oh, very nice. It's a good one. No. This weekend, I had a very nice time. So, as I was saying, I was working on the cosplay, but also I went to see Project Hail Mary, which was very, very good. I definitely see myself potentially reading that book and probably buying or watching that movie again once it comes out. I highly recommend it. If you have time to go see it, I'm usually not super into sci-fi, but I really enjoyed it. It's the same person that wrote The Martian, wrote Project Hail Mary, if that helps. But yes, so highly recommend. Other than that, I've been just continually working on my Zuzzy Lang cosplay, and so it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. I had to dye the robe twice, but now I'm finally at a color that I'm satisfied. You will get to see it soon. It's still in pieces, but soon. I think I'm pretty happy with the wig that I've been working on, so you never know. Maybe Zuzzy Lang will be making an appearance. Uh, Annika. Welcome, Annika, and I'm glad you found the right stream. We're still just doing the little intros. We have someone new joining us today. So hello, say hello to Sanvi. But yeah, how you doing, Annika? Hello, Truffle. Welcome. How are you doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. I've got a cold. I will probably have the deep voice part on Thursday. Good. But yeah. Again, could not recommend Project Hail Mary more. Definitely, if you have the chance, I know that going to the movies now is basically like going out to dinner at a slightly nice place. Keeper of the Lost Cities. Nice. It'll probably be like a week-long thing. I just hope I'm better by the con that's in a little over under 2 weeks. Wondering how Chubuchu gets out of this mess. I don't know, but I'm sure he will. And it will probably become cold. Oh, one last thing. I think we'll probably get started in just a little bit. Bouchanel is one of the pin clubs that I actually follow. And so my pin from, I think, 2 months ago finally came in. So we actually have Missville, our Missville boys, looking absolutely gorgeous. And of course, the sticker too. Beautiful boys. Of course, that's Bouchanel. Right. I love that she loves doing side pairing or less known books. So I happily support her. Okay. Let's see what shenanigans we shall get up to today. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So like Annika's saying, my lineup for the next con I'm going to, which is the weekend after Mother's Day. It will be Liu from Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish, then Zuzzy Lang for Saturday from Scumbill and Self Saving System, and then Yan Wuxi from Thousand Autumns. But yes, it's going to be a very fun weekend. I decided this time it's going to be all the less known or side characters, because that's kind of fun to do that. How'd you like it, Chi Chi Kiki? Two little beans who've never done anything bad in their lives. And Yan Wuxi. Yes. They're all such fun characters to play. But yeah. Okay. Let's see. I will mark down 11 minutes. It was so good. It was really good. Yeah. All right. So, before we start chapter 129, let's kind of go back over a little bit of where we left off. So, we are actually with the Empress, and Chi-Shi right has passed, and let's see. Duchess Yuan. We're talking with Duchess Yuan, the Empress, and Princess Li Ping. Empress Dugu was happy to see her daughter more frequently. She had many children, but it was her eldest daughter who received the lion's share of her love and attention. It was to her mother's great sadness that, despite her lofty status, Princess Li Ping's life had been a difficult one. She'd lost her husband and had no sons. Her only child was her daughter, Yuan Ying. Princess Li Ping's parents would eventually pass away and leave her. Once her daughter married, the only person she could rely on would be her brother, the future emperor. Contemplating her daughter's circumstances, Empress Dugu's heart swelled with compassion. Princess Li Ping laid her head on her mother's lap, and Empress Dugu stroked the raven hair beneath her fingers, anguish washing over her as the strands of gray mingled within the black. Like any mother, she loved her children dearly. Even as she held the title of one of the two saints, even as she immersed herself in government affairs, she remained a mother. In this case, one burdened by a guilty conscience. I've heard you've practically gone cross-eyed trying to pick a husband for Ying. There are so many eligible men out there. Have none managed to catch your eye? She said lightly. Could it be you're like Wu, hoping for Feng Xiao as your son-in-law? The funniest thing is that Chubuchu could make a very good, serious case that young widowhood isn't good. Princess Li Ping shifted her head on her mother's lap. She was no longer a young woman, and the loveliness of her face couldn't conceal the lines at the corners of her eye. But I think he'd go for slander. He'd definitely go for slander. Yet, no matter her age, in front of her mother, she remained the sweet girl who'd forever revered her parents. This was something time would never change. Princess Li Ping smiled. Fen Erlong is a fine man. He's a peerless martial artist and a talented official. I don't blame Wu for being drawn to him. If I were 10 years younger, perhaps I'd feel the same. The Wu they were discussing was, of course, none other than Princess Lan Ling, Yang Wu, who'd fallen hopelessly in love with the deputy chief of the Jijian Bureau. The Empress smiled back. Unfilial daughter, how can you call yourself old in front of your mother? You're young yet, and the eldest princess of this dynasty. If you found a good man, simply tell your father and me. Why suffer so? Princess Li Ping's expression darkened, but she remained silent. If you do not wish to remain a widow, Empress Dugu said evenly, you ought to seek a talented consort who can stand openly by your side. Carry on like this, and sycophants will flock to you, hoping to use you as a stepping stone for their own rise. You'll face more incidents like the one at the Thousand Lantern Banquet. Abruptly, the princess dropped to her knees. Mother, that incident was my fault. I endangered both the Crown Prince and the Prince of Jin. If anything should happen to them, I couldn't atone even with 1,000 deaths. I promise it will never happen again. The Empress sighed and reached down to help her up. I don't blame you, and neither does your father. You are too hard on yourself. Yuan Yun is long gone. You owe him nothing, and there's no need to remain a widow for him. Consider this. If your new husband belongs to one of the 7 great families, his status will overshadow that of Ying's father. Over time, people will forget. They will no longer bring it up. Mother, lately I keep thinking, if only I hadn't married Yun, how wonderful everything could have been. Princess Li Ping fell into her lap again and sobbed quietly. Empress Dugu was harsh and imperious, while her eldest daughter was soft and meek. The two couldn't have made a greater contrast. Even so, the Empress had an endless well of patience for the eldest princess. Silly child, the past is behind us. There's no need to dwell on it. If you don't wish to remarry, I won't force you. But you've looked at so many talented men for Ying. Don't you have any favorites? Princess Li Ping shook her head. Everyone is lacking. Ying, she's too naive, easily swayed by others. I just want her to be safe, happy, and carefree for the rest of her life. Empress Dugu mulled this over. In that case, her husband must be clever and powerful, someone who can protect her. Here's a thought. What about Chu Chu? Princess Li Ping's head jerked up in shock. Back to the light, Empress Dugu looked down at her, expression difficult to discern. So that, if you'll remember, is where we left off last time, where it was one of those record scratch moments where it's like, excuse me? What do you mean, Chubu Chu? The person who crashed the birthday party brought shame on us. I mean, saved us, but like, excuse me? I guess now we get to see the reaction. Chapter 129. In her heart of hearts, Princess Li Ping indeed resented her situation. But showing it would only create trouble, and such trouble was beyond her power to navigate. Yang Lihua might be Princess Li Ping, a cherished daughter of the heavens, but she remained fragile in the presence of people who could truly crush her. When she was in every beat. For a moment, she thought the Empress had seen everything she had tried to keep hidden. Trembling, she suddenly remembered that the woman before her was not merely her mother, but the Empress of a nation, a woman as resolute and decisive as her father. Mother, Princess Li Ping softened her voice, choosing her words carefully. I understand you've always placed great trust in Chu Xiansheng, or he'd never have risen to lead the Shuiyue Bureau at such a young age. Empress Dugu patted her head. You have it backward. He didn't ascend to lead the Shuiyue Bureau because I trust him. It was his own abilities that propelled him there. Yes! Princess Li Ping began to panic. She couldn't help raising her voice. But he's in very poor health. Mother, Ying is your own granddaughter. Could you bear to see her widowed so soon after her marriage? Empress Dugu remained unfazed. It is true that Chubuchu has been unwell since birth, but his life is in no danger. You worry too much. Yang is an innocent child, a dreamer, but her circumstances are unique. Both of you wish for a peaceful life, but there are scoundrels lurking everywhere, waiting to take advantage of you. With Chubuchu around, I would feel more at ease. Yup, that would definitely come up dreadful. Princess Li Ping's face was ashen. She'd thought Empress Dugu was merely testing her. Did she truly wish to betroth Yuan Ying to Chubuchu? Empress Dugu watched her, waiting for an answer, or perhaps trying to glean one from her daughter's expression. No matter how loving their relationship, mother and daughter were not equals. Their familial affection could never overcome the imbalance of power between them, nor bridge the insurmountable chasm it had created. Princess Li Ping, Yang Lihua, had never grasped this truth so clearly as she did today. I have only this one daughter! Tears streaming down the princess's face as grievances crowded her heart. She burst into sobs. Mother, please, I promise Ying will be safe. I'll keep a close eye on her. No scoundrels will take advantage of her. But this time, Empress Dugu didn't stroke her hair nor offer any reassuring words. Princess Li Ping's heart sank. Lihua, you must remember, your surname is Yang, not Yuan. And as for Ying, despite her surname, the Yuan family cannot protect her, she heard the Empress say. Yes, mother. The princess sank into a deep bow. The Empress extended a hand to help her up, but her next words brought the princess no joy at all. If he was able to fully recover his health, would you still oppose this marriage so? Other than his illness, everything about Chubuchu is exemplary. Princess Li Ping's heart juddered. She gritted her teeth, struggling to withstand the gentle, suffocating gaze above her. It had always been so. Ever since she was a child, she had no power to resist her mother's decisions. Her mind raced. Countless thoughts flashed like darting shadows. After mustering half a lifetime's worth of courage, Princess Li Ping finally managed to utter two words. I understand. Well now, Ying is still young. I won't say any more of it on it today. Look how nervous you've made yourself. Go wipe your tears before leaving the palace. Empress Dugu's voice was soft. Although she didn't appear displeased with her daughter, neither had she given her a definitive answer. Aside from the fact that he's rude and a chaos gremlin, nothing wrong with him. Right? Oh my goodness. That anime curl is coming back. Clearly, she hadn't given up on her desire to wed Yuan Ying to Chu Chu. Even from the back, she appeared dazed, let out a quiet sigh. Come out, Chu Xiansheng. A man emerged from around the corner. His face was pale and drawn, his steps slow. You saw it too. Li Hua is naturally meek. She doesn't seem to me like a woman capable of holding any sway over the 13 floors of Yunhai. I tested her just as you asked. If she was truly guilty of what you suspect, she would have submitted to the brothel rather than protested so vigorously. Betrothal. I was like, brothel. When did you bring up brothel? She would have submitted to the betrothal rather than protesting so vigorously. Oh. Whoops. Chubuchu nodded. The eldest princess doesn't look the type, it's true. But please refrain from telling her any of this for now. When she returns home, she will undoubtedly share what happened today with those closest to her. If there are any unsavory individuals in her company who attempt to use this knowledge, we will address them when the time comes. The enemy has gone to ground after the incident at Mount Tiannan, and we have yet to uncover any traces. We too should remain quiet and wait for their next move. Empress Dugu smiled without mirth. I never imagined I'd need to use the tactics I reserve for outsiders on my own daughter. If I'd known it would come to this, I wouldn't have let her marry into the palace in the first place. Hello, Esper Lady. Welcome. How are you doing today? We just started. We had the Empress offer Chubuchu in marriage to Ying. It's already been Esper Lady's birthday, but it's very sweet of you to ask, Truffle. Yes, and so now Empress Dugu and Chubuchu are talking after they tested, well, the Empress Dugu tested the princess. Chubuchu's expression remained placid. He made no reply, but the Empress wasn't seeking one. After all, had Princess Li Ping not become the former Empress, Yang Jian would have never become a relative of the royal family and would have had no opportunity to attain his own throne. Even if time could be turned back, they'd likely still have married their daughter to Yuan Yun. Of course. 2 hours later, Chubuchu left the palace carrying some valuable herbs that Empress Dugu had gifted him. Xiao Xian, waiting impatiently at the gates, turned to greet him, then froze when she saw him accompanied by an unfamiliar man. Oh, you'll have to tell us when yours is, Truffle. Happy almost birthday. The baby-faced general behind Chubuchu clapped his hands. Guan Shun Hai, Sima General of the Right Guard. When Her Majesty learned of Chubuchu's perilous experience on Mount Tiannan, she became concerned that the Shuyui Bureau lacked sufficient manpower. Her Majesty has ordered me to accompany him from now on. Ooh, it is coming up. It'll be around this weekend. It's the 5th. Oh yeah, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. So that'll be Saturday. Oh, it's always nice when there's Saturday birthdays. Are you doing anything fun? Okay. Accompanying Chubuchu had always been Xiao Xian's duty. How had a simple trip to the palace landed her with new competition? She looked back at him with instant hostility. Chubuchu's subordinates, oh great newbies. Guan Shunhai had no interest in squabbling with the jealous woman. To him, it was a humiliation to be reduced from a Sima of the Right Guard, a member of the Imperial Army, to a mere bodyguard. Chubuchu might enjoy the royal couple's favor, but the task of guarding an ailing man brought Guan Shunhai little satisfaction. He'd much rather have been on the battlefield slaughtering enemies. Dinner with the fam, might see a movie. Well, if you do go see a movie, can I recommend Project Hail Mary? It's serious, but so good. But yeah, dinner with the fam and a movie definitely sounds like a great birthday. I hope you enjoy it. Chubuchu had no interest in explaining the situation to Xiaoxian at the palace gates, nor in mediating a conflict between old and new personnel. He stepped into the carriage, his expression thoughtful and distant. It was clear he was in deep contemplation and not to be disturbed. Guangshan Hai didn't follow Chubuchu inside and attempt to ingratiate himself. Instead, he climbed up with the coachman. Unable to restrain herself a moment longer, Xiaoxian leapt up to join Chubuchu in the carriage. Yeah, definitely go see it. Go see it in theaters. It's worth it. Lord Chief, why did the Empress suddenly send someone to accompany you? Could it be? Her low voice dropped even lower. Surveillance? Chubuchu shook his head. Don't overthink it. The Shuoyui Bureau has always been short-staffed. The moment official business arises, all of you run yourselves ragged. If I'd had Guang Shanhai with me on the trip to Mount Tiannan, perhaps I'd have captured Ning Shiwu. And it's all due to my incompetence, said Xiao Xian. Chubuchu's brow furrowed slightly. Xiao Xian, he said. Xiao Xian raised her head and looked at him blankly. You worry too much for my safety and not enough for yourself. It's never been my intention for you to play the role of my personal maid or bodyguard. Do you understand? Xiao Xian answered him with silence, her usual way of expressing dissent. He had always been more lenient with her than other members of the Shuoyue Bureau, but this time he had no plans to indulge her. Lady, you weren't even there, right? The Shuoyue Bureau was overseen by two deputy chiefs, Sang Sun Bodhi, who handled external affairs, and Song Liang Chen, who handled internal. Below them were the Shuoyue guards, who diligently followed their commands. Xiao Xian frequently accompanied Chubachu, leading many to perceive her as merely his bodyguard. But Chubachu didn't wish for her to be confined to his side forever. Xiao Xian belonged to the wider world. If she chose to roam the Jianghu, she was skilled enough to carve out a place for herself. There was no reason she should stay in Chubuchu's shadow. Xiao Xian remained utterly silent, her expression one of deep hurt. Chubuchu had been unmoved by Princess Li Ping's sobs, yet now he extended a hand and gently patted Xiao Xian's head. She shifted subtly under his hand, as if nuzzling her head against his palm. There was nothing suggestive in it. Rather, she resembled a small animal seeking comfort. That's kind of cute. Like that is kind of wholesome, like a reticent man, kind of just like giving head pats, and it's kind of like slightly prickly cat, or like sophisticated cat, kind of like, yeah, okay, like, okay, you didn't see anything. How many years have we known each other? Chubuchu asked. 4, Xiao Xian said dully. It really is cute. She still remembered their meeting clearly. It had been a year before the Shuoyue Bureau was established. Chubuchu's tone was gentle. It's time for you to gain some independence. Your lordship, don't go so far away again, all right? Only in front of Chubuchu did she remove her cold, hard shell. Her tone, which could only be described as pleading, was one no one else had ever heard. If I'm not with you, who will look after your health? That won't be a problem. I'll bring the medicine you gave me. Besides, there's Guan Shanhai now, and Chubuchu stopped. He didn't say Feng Xiao's name. That Feng bastard never missed a chance to make life difficult for him, but he couldn't deny they worked well together when it mattered most. If Feng Xiao hadn't been on Mount Tiannan with him, if Xiao Xian or Zhang Sun had been there instead, they might not have made it out alive. Aw, he's trying to launch her into the world. He is. He's saying, go be free. Find your own way. Like, go be amazing. I know you can do it. Xiao Xian froze as she guessed the name he'd left unsaid, and a look of disbelief crossed her face. She quickly dropped her head, hiding her expression from Chubuchu, and listened to his next order without looking up. Go to the Jiajian Bureau and ask Feng Xiao about those names. Xiao Xian knew at once what he was referring to. The prize Chubuchu had won in a bet with Feng Xiao at the foot of Mount Tiannan. Feng Xiao owed him a list of the names and details of all government officials at the provincial level and below. Yet since returning to the capital, whenever the Shuyui Bureau sent someone to ask after the list, they received the same answer. The Shuyui Bureau chief must come in person. So remember, Feng Xiao had a little bit of a realization last time of like, oh shit, I like him. And followed by, oh my god, how could I like a what was the word he used? A invalid? It was like, how dare I have feelings for an invalid? And he was so offended by it, by his own feelings. He was very offended. Like, I thought I had better taste than this. Yeah. I found the word. I did. That scene was pretty funny. He was offended on his own behalf. He was like, how could my taste have fallen so far? But yes. Feng Xiao seemed confident Chubuchu would eventually yield. He kept his door wide open and acted completely unconcerned. He kept dangling the lure and waiting for the fish to bite, but Chubuchu remained resolute, refusing to go himself. They were at a stalemate. What if you still won't hand it over? Xiao Xian asked. Chubuchu snorted lightly. If you show up, he'll think I'm getting impatient. Even if he refuses to hand it over, he's sure to attempt a trick or two. As soon as he does, I'll turn the tables on him and force him to cough up what he owes me. His tone wasn't one reserved for an enemy, but a familiar old adversary. As the saying went, know your enemy and know yourself. Chubuchu made it sound like they were friends and rivals both. They had only taken a trip to Boling, yet Xiao Xian realized their relationship had changed completely. In some ways more than others, yes. Okay. Chapter 130. It'll be 38. I'm going to apologize now for all the nose blowing that I'm going to be doing in the next couple streams. Yeah. Love that they're playing a game of chicken again, and they were exploring more than bowling. Haha, especially in that cave. Yeah. Actually, it's 89:45. Chapter 130. Feng Xiao was painting when Xiao Xian arrived. He was entirely focused, smiling faintly as he moved the brush across the paper. It seemed he was in high spirits. Xiao Xian grudgingly bowed in greeting. Xiao Xian of the Zhuoyui Guard greets the deputy chief. Feng Xiao didn't raise his head nor pause in his strokes. Although Xiao Xian didn't have a clear view of the painting, she saw that Feng Xiao's smile seemed to flow through the brush tip and onto the rattan paper on the desk. A beauty painting beneath the balmy autumn sun. Xiao Xian found this man irritating beyond measure, but she had to admit it was a stunning scene. All that loveliness was shattered the moment Feng Xiao spoke. It appears Chubuchu still refuses to come himself. This humble subordinate has come on the chief's order to pick up something owed to the Shuyui Bureau. I ask the deputy chief to please accept his loss. Feng Xiao ignored her icy gaze. The bet was between me and Chu Chu, he said, all smiles. If he wants the list of names, he may pick them up himself. I won't acknowledge anyone else. Besides, he paused a moment, setting down the brush and studying the completed painting before looking back up at Xiaoxian. Sorry. Chubachu alone is qualified to call himself my equal. You call yourself humble, but your tone suggests otherwise. You don't sound like a subordinate in the slightest. Does Chubachu keep you around under the delusion that your attitude will help relieve his burdens? At Xiaoxian's stunned expression, Feng Xiao's lips curled in a faintly malicious smile. You know your way around disguises, and you know some medicine as well. But in the Jijian Bureau, people like you are replaceable. If I offer one of my people to Chubuchu, would he accept them? Would they take your place? Man, he is not pulling punches. Instantly, he's like, so you think you're important? If I offer someone to replace you, think he'll take you up on my offer? Or take me up on my offer, not you. But yeah, I love that everyone thinks Feng Xiao is good looking until he opens his mouth. Yep, right? Anger surged in Xiaoxian's heart. She wanted to retort, but by the time the words were on her tongue, she decided there was no point arguing. In the end, she merely said coldly, I'm afraid I must disappoint you. Palace has already sent us an attendant to serve as the Lord Chief's new bodyguard. Then you have been sent away, Feng Xiao said in surprise. Xiaoxian pressed her lips together and said nothing. Oh boy. Moments later, Pei Jingzi watched Xiaoxian's back as she ferociously stalked out. He couldn't stop himself from asking, Sir, if Chubuchu really comes, do we give him the list? If he visits Chubuchu's bureau again, they're going to give him the saltiest tea and stalest cakes known to man. Yes. Seeing Paging Z reminded me that we never actually did read off our injustices, so let's get to it. Injustice to service workers is sitting at a whopping 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, with a thankfully slightly higher than usual justice to service workers sitting at a 3. Injustice to animals and plants is sitting at a solid 5. Our injustice to innocence count is sitting at a 5, 10, 15, 19 with a half justice to innocence. Our injustice to Peijing Z is 5, 10, 13 with injustice to reader sitting at 2. And find her is 65, 70, 72. Will we reach 100 this episode? Probably not. End of the book? Most likely. Reach 100 this episode? Probably not. End of the book? Most likely. Let's see. Feng Xiao arched a brow. If he's willing to yield, why shouldn't we give it to him? That list contains secret information on officials of all ranks. How much time and effort did it take the Jijian Bureau to create that list in the first place? And you're willing to just give it away? Feng Xiao smiled. You don't understand Shubu Chu. If he chooses to appear in person, he'll come prepared to make a trade. You know that list is worth far more than a game of Shupu. So how could Chubuchu not? He never expected me to hand it over without a fight. If he hadn't come, it's only because he doesn't think the Shuoyui Bureau has anything that will impress me. Peijingzi's confusion multiplied. Then, are you hoping he comes, or that he doesn't? Instead of answering his question, Feng Xiao said, Go find out who the Empress assigned to him. She hadn't done it secretly, so finding that out should be a simple matter. Pei Jingzi acknowledged the order and left. He returned within the hour. Sir, it's the Sima General of the Right Guard, Guang Shanhai. 3 generations of his family have served in the army, and Guan Shanhai has proven himself a skilled wielder of the spear on the battlefield. He's expected to succeed the commanding general of the Right Guard within the capital in the future. That the Empress assigned him to the Shu Yui Bureau shows how much she values him. Feng Xiao sneered. On the battlefield, a soldier is up against thousands of opponents. His strength lies in breaking through enemy lines. Those aren't the skills of a bodyguard. Guan Shanhai has enjoyed a steady stream of promotions. His career has been smooth sailing, and his skills are the real thing. Must be an arrogant man. I'd imagine he's unhappy at having been reassigned to the Shuyui Bureau. With that, he stood to head out. Pei Jingzi hurried after him. Where are you going? Feng Xiao folded his hands behind his back. To the Shuyui Bureau to watch the show, he said languidly. He's jealous. He's like, just because he's the commander doesn't mean he has. He's a little jealous. He made it sound like he was stepping out to visit a neighbor, but the Jidian and Shuyui Bureau were nowhere near each other. But, sir, you just said you'd wait for Chubuchu to yield. When the terrain won't change for you, you must adapt to the terrain. The Empress would never do such a thing without a reason. If she sent someone like Guang Shanhai, she must have some new task for Chubuchu. Depends. Or besides, showing up at his door and making him yield will have the same result. You call this making him yield? It's clear you're the one who can't stand to wait anymore. You're going there to provoke him yourself, aren't you? Pei Jingzi had interacted with Chubuchu on several occasions. Though Chubuchu knew no martial arts, his gaze always made Pei Jingzi feel as if he was being stripped bare. He'd started feeling guilty even if he hadn't done anything. Oh, he got the mom look. Is the Shuyui Bureau the reason you're trying to get close to Chubuchu? He asked. Feng Xiao chuckled. What good is the Shuyui Bureau without Chubuchu? But then what's so special about Chubuchu? Pei Jingzi asked, puzzled. Why do I feel like he's about to get roasted? Fanning himself, Feng Xiao strolled along in no hurry. That Chu fellow. His appearance is unremarkable. He's moody, stingy, and vindictive, with a tongue as sharp as a knife. He takes a mile when you give him an inch, hides his cunning behind a harmless facade, and his mind is bursting with schemes. He's perpetually ill, yet never wallows in self-pity, and he spends his days darting about trying to claim the credit for other people's work. If not for me, he'd have met his end 100 times over in Bowling Commandery and Mount Tiannan. So if you're asking what makes him special, I suppose he has a special love of courting death. Pei Jingzi was dumbfounded. He'd asked the question offhand, yet Feng Xiao had immediately started rambling. According to him, there was nothing good about Chubuchu. But if that was so, why couldn't Deputy Chief Feng leave well enough alone? When Chubuchu was quiet, his lordship Feng Heir made sure to send him a reminder, and when Chubuchu did send someone, Feng Heir kept him hanging, insisting he come himself. Pei Jingzi had no idea how the two of them had made it through their time in Boling without incident. 2 tigers couldn't share a mountain. Logically, either Feng Xiao should have died of rage, or Chubuchu should have perished from a beating. Yet both had returned unscathed. Pei Jingzi felt that something was odd here, but he was at a loss as to what it could be. See, he's picking up on it, but he's like, I don't get it. The Shuyui Bureau was indeed much livelier with the addition of Guangshan Hai. Everyone in the Shuyui Bureau, especially those capable enough to work closely with Chubuchu, had been with him for a long time. In turn, Chubuchu placed great trust in them. Yet Guan Shanhai had practically fallen from the sky. I like the rhyme. Without doing anything to earn it, he was suddenly second only to Zhang Sun and Song Lian Chen. He outranked everyone else, including Qiao Xian. What was more, the Empress herself had ordered it. Naturally, all eyes were on him, and whispers swirled through the bureau. Qiao Xian stewed in unhappiness. Finally, she couldn't take it any longer. She gathered herself and publicly asked Guang Shanhai to spar. She had no idea that Guang Shanhai found this new arrangement demeaning. Though he hadn't voiced it, he too was dissatisfied. He readily agreed to Qiao Xian's request. Beat his ass! Oh, I want to see him get knocked flat. They agreed to spar on the Shuyui Bureau's training grounds. The news spread like wildfire through the Bureau, and soon the field was packed full. Even Chubuchu came to watch, looking on in astonishment. Jiao Xian specialized in graceful swordplay, while Shanhai's spear technique was bold and powerful. From their martial arts to their experience, they were utterly incompatible. Yet they had been thrown together by the Shuyui Bureau. The match began. Both combatants possessed strong wills, and their attacks were merciless. Jiao Xian floated over the training grounds in her white clothes, practically adrift on the breeze as her sword danced towards her opponent. Only the sharp-eyed noticed her toes tapping the ground as she landed and took off again. Her qinggong was stunning. Jiao Xian didn't care what the spectators thought. She merely wanted to prove that she was more qualified to accompany Chubuchu than the interloper Guan Shanhai. Her sword chi sliced toward Guang Shanhai's face. With a flick of his wrist, his spear point jabbed out in a series of tight circles that surged forward one after the other to block Qiao Xian's offensive. His gaze was harsh and cold. Sweep, jab, tap, pull. These were the four fundamental movements of the spear, and Guan Shanhai moved through them like breathing. His spear, Wen Yue, transformed into a living thing as it punched towards his enemy with crushing force. The spearhead streaked through the air, leaving icy sparks in its wake. While the onlookers were still dazzled, it painted a secondary silver arc that connected with the first to form the bright outline of the yin-yang symbol. Okay, that would be pretty cool to witness. Not even kidding. The first jab neutralized Qiao Xian's attack. The second drew in Shi to cloak himself. The final jab switched from defensive to offensive. The spear stabbed towards Qiao Xian. Beneath the blazing sun, Guan Shanhai's chiseled bronzed features were intent, as if he were facing not Qiao Xian, but an army of thousands. He wove through the battlefield, disregarding his enemies, his surroundings, his very life and death. Mountains toppled, seas overturned, the sun and moon rose and fell. The trees and bushes splintered. Spring bled into autumn. Autumn mentioned. Against a host of thousand, he alone was enough. Qiao Xian realized his spear had caught her sword. The dazzling glare was inches from her, piercing towards her face. Bloodlust filled the air as she felt a sharp pain between her brows. Alarmed, Qiao Xian attempted to leap back and retreat, but her sword was trapped. She couldn't pull away. Even if she let go, the bloodlust was already upon her. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Yeah, Autumn and Thousand next to each other? In the next instant, twin blades of air funneled toward them from opposite directions, each carrying a stone that targeted Guan Shanhai's left and right shoulders. Guang Shanhai sprang up, avoiding the stones, then landed smoothly on the ground. With a twirl of his wrist, he drew back his spear. Xiao Xian's nerves were still singing. She fell to one knee, too ashamed to look at Chubachu. This subordinate is incompetent. Please forgive me, Lord Chief. All warriors experience both victory and defeat, but you should know where to draw the line when it comes to one of your own. The first sentence was meant for Qiao Xian, but the second was aimed at Guan Shanhai. Guan Shanhai pursed his lips and cupped his hands. The subordinate understands his wrongdoings. Chubachu turned to the two men who'd just walked in. Deputy Chief Fang, what ill wind has blown you here? There'd been two stones just now, one thrown by Zhang Sun Bodhi and the other by Feng Xiao. Ever since Mount Tiannan, Chu Langjun has shut himself away and refused all guests. Of course, I missed you dearly. We shared both joy and sorrow, life and death on that battlefield, or that journey. How could I live with myself if I didn't come see you? Got a picture. Unfortunately, not the fight, but now we know what. Okay. Poor Xiaoxian. She's so. She looks very defeated. I knew it was behind the stones, and I love the pun Chubachu made. Chubachu does look so stern. Well, it's his bureau. And he walks in and he sees them fighting. Like, basically, it's like, hey, new guy, I get it. I know you're new here. I know my subordinate shouldn't have, like, caused a fight, but, like, you also took it too far. Feng means wind. Ah, there we go. Chubachu sneered, and here I wondered if Deputy Chief Fang finally remembered the bet he lost. Has your guilty conscience brought you here to pay your debt? The wind churned up the sand of the training grounds and tossed the hems of their robes. Jiao Xian watched their confrontation. How had Feng Xiao walked into the Shuiyui bureau with such ease? The Shuiyui guard should have done everything in their power to bar him entry. Even if he overpowered them, they should have sprinted here to make the report. But the guards had clearly done nothing of the sort. Feng Xiao had strolled onto the training grounds without any obstruction. She could only guess that Chubachu must have given the instruction in advance. As long as Feng Xiao came himself, there was no need to stop him. These two had started off as bitter enemies. What had this begun that the master of the Jijian Bureau could saunter into the Shu Yue Bureau as if it was his own home? Perhaps Feng Xiao guessed her thoughts because his smile widened. Chubachu waved a hand, dispersing the crowd. He led Feng Xiao toward the pavilion in the middle of the bureau's pond. To what do we owe the pleasure, Deputy Chief Fang? He was bored and ran over to watch the excitement. Pei Jingzi scoffed silently. I came to give you the list you asked for, said Feng Xiao. Chubachu halted in his steps and frowned. Since when did you become so generous? Feng Xiao sighed. Ah, I know the list is of great importance to you. You hope to use it to unearth all the spies of the 13 floors of Yunhai. All the spies the 13 floors of Yunhai have planted within the imperial court. But how could I hand over something so valuable to just anyone? I waited for you to come to my doors and claim it, but you refused. What choice did I have except to make the trip myself? But if you doubt my sincerity, I'll be on my way. He turned to leave. Without thinking, Chubachu reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Instantly, Chubachu realized he'd revealed his eagerness and let go. But it was too late. A gleeful smile spread across Feng Xiao's face. If you want it so much, why don't we sit and have a nice chat? Chubachu couldn't relax for a second around this man. He blew out a slow breath. What do you want? Meng Xiao reached out and brushed his fingers across Chubachu's cheek. Chubachu tried to evade, but the hand swiftly grazed past his temple, reaching for the top knot on the back of his head and plucking the jade hairpin free. He waved the hairpin in front of Chubachu. To stop you from defaulting on your debt, he said. I have no choice but to take the hairpin as collateral. He still remembered the way Chubachu had looked, leaving the cave, his hair loose and his lips pale. There'd been a harsh coldness to him, like a lone pine growing at a cliff's edge. Some other fastener was holding Chubachu's hair in place because it didn't come loose upon losing the hairpin. Ah, a pity, thought Feng Xiao. I'm afraid Deputy Chief Feng's request will be too hard to fulfill, Chubachu said tonelessly. Oh, he's resorting to literal pigtail pulling now. Yes, he is. He doesn't care. Like he's like, if it works, it works. Who needs dignity? You still remember I'm afraid Deputy Chief Feng's request will be too hard to fulfill, Chubachu said tonelessly. I haven't even said it yet. How do you know? It'll be hard to fulfill. Chubachu's eyes lingered briefly on the jade hairpin in Feng Xiao's hand. He pressed his lips together and said nothing. Clearly, Chubachu was the one who wanted something from him. Yet he refused to speak a single cajoling word. Feng Xiao considered this for a moment, running his fingers over the hairpin, as if it was the bony knuckle of Chubachu's own hand. I want you. Under Chubachu's stunned gaze, he slowly finished his sentence. To do me a favor. The list in exchange for a gargantuan favor. Remember, Chubachu, you owe me. Since the moment they met in Liugong City, they'd entangled ever tighter, neither enemies nor friends. Impossible to separate for the rest of their lives. Alright, so I'm going to give that one shamelessness, because him coming here by himself to demand a favor for something he's already agreed to give, it's pretty shameless. Not in the way, but like audacity wise. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 60, 73. Nice. 73. I hate spring colds. They're so annoying. 105. Chapter 131. In Guangxian County, rain sheeted down. Murkiness swirled above and below, impenetrable no matter where one looked. The sky and earth had merged into a single dark void, isolated from the rest of the world as they dissolved into one another. The water that poured from the clouds seemed inexhaustible, as if the heavens themselves were emptying basin after basin into the mortal realm. The flatlands transformed into swamp, and the river swelled to engulf the fields and their crops on its banks. On the horizon, the silhouettes of houses were a distant smudge. Rongqing waded through the mud, staggering as he went. All his surprise, fear, and confusion melted away at the scene before him, leaving only stupefaction. Everything was done for. All the lives and families here had been thoroughly ruined. The land beneath his feet should have been a prosperous village. Half a month ago, the village had been at its most bustling. Farmers tramping in from the fields, children chasing each other as they played. Smoke wafted from every house, and passers-by could smell the homely sense of cooking. Sorry about that. Yet now there was only water as far as the eye could see. The torrential rain had swollen the river, and the waters overflowed their banks and rushed over the city and its outskirts. The rain refused to stop, growing heavier as the waters grew higher, until there was nowhere the floodwaters did not touch. Umbrellas became useless burdens in the face of the rain's fierce laughter. It spit and split their oil paper canopies and streamed in through the cracks, drenching the people beneath. Rongqing shoved his attendant's hand holding his umbrella away, exposing himself to the rain. His head and face were soaked with rainwater, and he could barely open his eyes. He scrubbed at his face and squinted hard, as did everyone around him. They were all mourning the disaster, their tears indistinguishable from the rain streaming down their despairing faces. "Sir!" the attendant called after Rongqing, trying to keep pace with him as he walked off. But the rain swallowed his voice in an instant. He couldn't even hear himself. "Young man, stop Censor Rong quickly! We can't keep going in the rain! We won't be able to get back!" An accompanying official roared with all his strength. Before we continue, I'm going to add 1 to Injustice to Innocence, because this is a sucky situation. So we're at 20. The attendant, Xiao Lue, jerked his head around, looking out at the rain. When they'd arrived, most of the higher terrain had been visible, but in just a short time, even that had been submerged. The land around them was like a giant turtle slowly sinking, only the top of its shell still above the water. Frightened, he ran to catch up with Rongqing. The man tripped over a submerged stone in his haste and fell, splashing muddy water all over his face. Just up ahead, Rongqing found himself surrounded by water on all sides, trapped, with no way forward or back. The only thing beside him was an old tree, similarly stranded, creaking ominously in the floodwaters, and helpless to resist its fate. Xiao Lue ignored the pain in his knees and roared with all his might, "Quick! You must save my lord!" The other officials looked at each other helplessly. Freshly arrived from the capital, on hearing about the flood, Imperial Censor Rongqing had insisted on leaving the safer higher land of the county to survey the region himself. Everyone had tried to dissuade him, to no avail. The magistrate of Guangxian County had no choice but to send the deputy magistrate and some officials to accompany their visitor. Yet to their horror, the floods had grown more severe during their expedition, the waters beginning to encroach on the high ground. Even the hillsides that had originally lain above the reach of the flood were swiftly engulfed. By the way, for all that celebrated May the 4th be with you, apparently they do not have the high ground in this situation. A small flotilla of wooden buckets and clothes floated on the waves. A clump of black hair drifted among them, hinting at someone submerged below. Whether they were dead or alive was anyone's guess. The people here could barely save themselves. They'd never dare undertake the risk of saving others. Only Censor Rongqing remained utterly fearless, apparently determined to push forward and save the person. Now, however, he found himself stranded and waiting for a rescuer of his own. The deputy magistrate Li Yan had already silently cursed Rongqing a couple thousand times. Should they rescue him or not? If they attempted a rescue, there was a good chance they'd be swept away as well. But if they left him to drown, Rongqing was a censor from the imperial court. They were sure to be held responsible by the higher-ups if he perished here. Still, this was a natural disaster. The censor had a death wish. Surely there was nothing they could do. Leon thought furiously. He knew how to swim, but a choice as simple as taking a step forward or back here might decide his fate. If he disregarded his own safety to save the censor, perhaps he would drown instead. His face filled with panic at the thought. What should we do? I'll go find someone to rescue Censor Rong. But who could possibly make it in time? A rare flash of inspiration struck Xiao Lu. He lunged forward and clutched at Lian, shouting at the top of his lungs, Please save my lord! Let's take off our belts and tie our waists together, then hold each other's hands and walk over. We'll make it in time. Li Yan gritted his teeth. Even a sturdy hemp rope would get washed away in this current, let alone a flimsy cloth belt. As they argued, the water climbed higher. The flood was lapping at Xiao Lu's ankles, and the water seemed poised to rise again. Rongqing only had a tiny patch of dry ground left to stand on. He couldn't move an inch. Water safety win! Xiao Lu's voice was thick with terrified tears. Please wait, sir. We're coming to save your lordship now. Leon looked at the three petty officials who'd accompanied them. The rain blurred their expressions. No one was willing to risk themselves to save an unfamiliar imperial censor, and Rongqing had already earned their dislike. He'd been accusing and criticizing them since the moment he'd arrived. It was one thing if he wanted to get himself killed, but now he was putting others in danger too. After a moment's hesitation, Li Yan made his decision. Yet in the next instant, a figure flew past so swift he couldn't even make out the color of their clothes through the heavy rain. That smudge of shadow landed on the shrinking patch where Rongqing stood, grabbed Rongqing by the shoulders and hoisted him up, then leapt off the old tree back to the others. This area was no drier, but at least there was a place to stand. Sir! Xiao Lu cried in shocked pleasure. What are you staring for? Get moving, the rescuer said harshly. Now that he was closer, they could see he was clad in blue robes. His voice was somehow able to penetrate the current of rain because they could hear him clearly. No one dared to tarry any longer. They rushed to higher ground, and Xiao Lu staggered after them, supporting Rongqing. The heavens smiled on them. The rain gradually receded, and the water slowed their aggressive climb. Everyone finally had a chance to catch their breath as they crested the hill. They saw the gates of the city beckoning to them in the distance, and their hearts, which had been ready to leap out of their throats, settled back into their chests. They'd long since lost their umbrellas, and everyone was so splattered with mud it was impossible to guess what colors they'd originally been wearing. It was all they could do to trudge forward one step at a time toward their destination. Xiao Lu's legs went weak. He collapsed, dragging Rongqing down with him. Their blue-clad rescuer snorted derisively, then gathered his strength and leapt away, bounding toward the city without looking back. The attendant would normally have complained, but at that moment he lacked the energy to say anything. Rongqing's state was little better. 2 hours later, everyone had finally straggled into the city. Rongqing declined Deputy Magistrate Li Yan's invitation to rest at the county office and returned to his lodgings at the relay station. Li Yan didn't bother trying to persuade him. His attitude toward Rongqing had cooled considerably. The enthusiasm with which he'd greeted him upon his arrival was nowhere to be found. Soaking in the relay station's bathtub, Rongqing washed the grime from his body. Then he wolfed down his meal, feeling his strength gradually return. In the quiet of the room, he realized how close he had come to death. He was gripped by a lingering fear. The imperial court had dispatched him to Guangqian County to assess the flood damage and provide disaster relief. Dying like that would have been too great a humiliation. Right, the guy in blue seems strangely familiar. I wonder if it was Yu Xiu or else Feng Xiao. It's certainly not Chu Bu Chu. Probably Feng Xiao. Not long after, Xiao Lue came to his room, hanging his head in apology. Sir, I nearly failed to save you. Li Yan stalled on purpose, he complained. I'm telling you, he was about to push me into the water too and silence us both. He just wanted to absolve himself of the blame. Xi Rong didn't share the intensity of his grudge. I insisted on going out in person, he said calmly. His anger is understandable. Xiao Lue would have liked to say more, but instead he changed the subject. That man who rescued you looked familiar. Don't think it's anyone from this series. If I'm not wrong, he came with Chu Bu Chu. They're here already, Xiao Lue said in surprise. Then will Chu Xiansheng blame you? He'd hardly finished his question when the porter tapped on the door with an invitation. It read, Lord Chu cordially invites the censor to a meal at Yer Tea House. Speak of the devil. Rongqing smiled thinly. He saved my life. Even if he wishes to censor me, I must turn the other cheek. This incident had begun 10 days ago when a report had arrived in the capital from Guangqian County. The county was suffering unexpectedly heavy rains, which caused the river to swell and overflow its banks. Much of the commandery had been swept up in the subsequent flood, and the seat of government, Guangqian County itself, had been the hardest hit. Oh, hello, Angela. Welcome back. We have gotten through a little bit more. Chu Bu Chu now has a new protector, guardian, assigned from the Empress. There was some beef between Xian Xiao about the position because she did not appreciate someone else taking kind of her guarding of Chu Bu Chu away. There was a fight between the two. Xiao Xian lost. And so our new guy kind of proved himself a little bit. And then, of course, Feng Xiao crashed the party. But yeah. Okay. Now we're in Guangqian County itself and kind of going over why there's floods, who are these people. So that's what's happening now. Displaced, starving victims of the disaster were everywhere. They pleaded for the court to distribute grain as disaster relief. Guangqian County suffered floods almost every year during the rainy season, but this year the flooding was especially severe. The imperial court agreed to send grain, and the empress sent an imperial censor, Rongqing. There you go, that's who it is. Along with it to supervise the relief efforts. Only on the day of his departure did Rongqing learn that Chubuchu, the reclusive chief of the Shuyui Bureau, would join him on his journey. Chubuchu held a missive personally issued by the Empress. Rongqing read it 3 times before confirming it was the genuine article. But this arrangement was too strange. According to rank, Chubuchu should have been in charge of this assignment, yet the Empress hadn't said a word. Instead, the other had come from the Empress. The order had come from the Empress. When Rongqing considered the duties of the Shuyui Bureau, he couldn't help thinking the Empress had sent their chief to keep an eye on him. Rongqing had been an official of the Su court for some time, but he had never interacted with organizations like the Shuyui and Jijian bureaus, which navigated the gray area between righteousness and deception. In his eyes, Chubuchu was nothing more than a lucky opportunist who had managed to claw his way to the top, a sentiment shared by many in the Sioux government. There was no issue when they stayed in their separate spheres, but now that they'd been asked to cooperate, Rongqing felt deeply conflicted. They'd first met in Bao Chiao on the outskirts of the capital. The encounter had been tense, but not hostile, superficially courteous. Rongqing had politely deferred to Chubuchu for instructions, at which point Chubuchu had explained that Rongqing would be in charge of this mission and was free to do as he saw fit. Rongqing took this as permission to drop his false obsequiousness. He had his carriage readied and set off for Guangqian Commandery without waiting for Chubuchu. One moment, Angela. I'll answer. As opposed to any interference from the Shuyui Bureau on principle. He rushed to Guangqian Commandery only to find the reality far more horrifying than he had anticipated. He'd never before witnessed a disaster of such magnitude. As an imperial censor whose job it was to regulate other government agencies, Rongqing was driven by a fervent desire to aid the populace. He tirelessly conducted surveys of the damages, even venturing out to the submerged villages themselves. Ignoring the dangers, he pressed on toward the outskirts of the county, where the flooding was at its worst. His reckless bravery had nearly cost him his life. Yet to his surprise, Chubuchu, whom he'd assumed to still be en route, had not only arrived, but sent someone out to rescue him. When Rongqing came to the tea house and spotted Chubuchu, his complexion even paler than it had been a few days earlier in Bao Chiao, he was overwhelmed with shame. A hot flush crept up from his neck to his ears, and he was compelled to bow deeply before Chubuchu. Chief Chu, I cannot thank you enough for saving my life. Okay. Now, Angela, I didn't think about reading the new revised Seven Seas version of Golden Terrace. Maybe if there are significant differences, like maybe more extras, kind of like they've been doing for Scumvillain, I might read those, but I think I'll probably just continue going with some of the other book series because I'm spoiled for choice with Danmei. But I will definitely keep it in mind, maybe one day, because it is one of the first couple that started this whole thing. Was wanting to get those Little Mushroom, Golden Terrace, less so Peach Blossom Debt and the Imperial Uncle out there because people were just going crazy with how much they were charging, and there were so many counterfeits out there. And I had them, and I had the time to do this. So probably not, but it's not a complete no. Grumpy Dragon. Copper coins is definitely a possibility, Truffle. Actually, give me a moment. We are about to start the next chapter, but I really need to use the bathroom. I will be super fast. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I told you I'd be really quick. I mean, with how much people were selling them for and how much hype there was around getting copies, I'm not 100% surprised that there were counterfeits. I'm disappointed, but I could also see it happening if there was that want. And I mean, I remember seeing people selling Golden Terrace for like $80 per volume. I was like, no. I believe everyone should have access to these books and should not have to pay that to have that access. And yes, I will keep copper coins on the back burner for the next series, since we do have that coming up in like the next month or so. All right. Where is my post-it note times? 132. Censor wrong. If Guan Shanhai hadn't arrived when he did, were you prepared to die in the flood waters? Rong Qing had abandoned his pride to thank him, yet not only did Chubuchu offer no words of comfort, he went so far as to dress him down. Yeah. Where everything got gouged? Yes. Not only did Chubuchu offer no words of comfort, he went so far as to dress him down. Rong Qing's face froze as Chubuchu continued. Just think. Everyone would have soon known that Censor Rong arrived under orders to oversee the disaster efforts, yet he faltered before he'd even begun. They'd hear that the officials of Guangqian County were deep in mourning, that even the imperial censor had succumbed to the floods. This would serve as proof of the severity of the crisis, prompting the court to allot Guangqian County more relief grain. Yet you, Rong Qing, would be the first official of Su to perish in such a dubious manner. Chubuchu paused, glancing at Rong Qing with a faint smirk, thus becoming the target of countless jokes. At that moment, Rong Qing finally realized what he disliked about the chief of the Shuyui Bureau. Whenever this man spoke to him, there was always another implication behind his words. He sounded purely mocking now, yet he seemed to be insinuating something more, something Rong Qing couldn't grasp. And if Rong Qing couldn't figure it out himself, Chubuchu certainly wouldn't explain. Some people had a natural affinity. They could share deep and meaningful conversations after meeting only briefly. But Rong Qing was sure that no matter how many times he met Chubuchu, he'd never grow to like him. The man was too acerbic and too arrogant. Because the Empress was fond of him, he looked down his nose at everyone around him. Squashing his anger, Rong Qing replied, I know it was impolite of me to leave first. I've displeased the Lord Chief, but this disaster is getting worse by the minute. If I arrived a day earlier, I'd be able to start my investigation and reports a day earlier, and perhaps more people could be saved. So you rushed here and almost died, said Chibuchu unceremoniously. Sorry, work text. Okay. So you rushed here and almost died, said Jubuchu unceremoniously. Rong Qing drew himself up. If Chief Chu refuses to engage in a proper conversation, then I shall take my leave. I will assuredly repay you for saving my life, but while we are here in Guangqian, let us go our separate ways. The censor, too, was a stubborn man. He believed he was in the right and was thus unwilling to endure more reproach. Chubuchu twitched a finger. Before Guan Shanhai realized what it meant, Qiao Xian was in motion. She drew her sword and held it at Rong Qing's neck. Not Qirong. Rong Qing's neck. Let you go, she said coldly. Rong Qing was so furious he left. So this is the fabled tyranny of the Shuyui Bureau. You dare threaten imperial officials on a whim? It's a small wonder everyone at court trembles at the mere mention of you. If Chief Chu desires the kind of power that sends people scurrying out of your way in fear, you've certainly achieved it. Chibu Chu was unfazed. You nearly lost your life here mere days after arriving. Once word gets out, the reputation of the Wrong clan and all the hard-earned achievements of your father will be sullied by your actions. Rong Qing was stunned. You know my father? 2 years ago, your father, Rong Qi, assumed the position of magistrate of Mo County in Yu Province. When the Gok Turks came to plunder the city, he remained fearless, refusing to surrender even in the face of death. Your father lost his life trying to hold the city gates before reinforcements reached him. In recognition of his unwavering loyalty, His Majesty promoted his son, Yu, to imperial censor. At the mention of his father, most of Rong Qing's anger quietly fizzled out. He was silent for a moment. To be honest, I've been doing quite a bit of investigating here over the past few days. There's something strange happening in Guangqian County. The rains that year had been exponentially heavy. On Rong Qing's journey into the county, the downpour had persisted for 10 days. He'd chosen one of the official roads that traversed higher terrain, steering clear of the river. Because the official road was only muddy and had yet to be submerged, it wasn't until he reached his destination that he grasped the full extent of the disaster. Much of the city was submerged, and even the outskirts were challenging to navigate. Refugees streamed into the city, but capacity was limited. Only a portion of them could be accommodated. That's going to be an injustice to innocence. Just nature being awful. So 21. Refugees had streamed into the city, but capacity was limited. Only a portion of them could be accommodated. County Magistrate Huang Lue resettled as many as he could on the west side of the city and provided them with honest work. Each day, they transported mud outside the city, constructing an embankment to combat the relentless advance of the flood. Rongqing had gone to oversee the endeavor himself and found it commendable. The city had taken in the refugees and given them something to do, mitigating any potential unrest. But while the disaster here in Guangqian County had been addressed, the cities and neighboring counties within the commandery hadn't such capable magistrates. The waters remained high, and the food within their storehouses was limited. Huang Lue hoped Rong Qing would bring their plight to the court's attention so that they could secure more relief grain. Rong Qing wished to do exactly that, but as the censor sent by the court, he couldn't make his decision on the word of Huang Lue alone. He sought out Deputy Magistrate Li Yan and made some private inquiries. Li Yan had stammered his way through his answers, making Rong Qing suspect he was hiding something. The censor had questioned him doggedly until Li Yan finally let something slip. It was in pursuit of this lead that Rong Qing had personally gone to the outskirts of the city for a look. Abruptly, Rong Qing changed the subject. 2 nights ago, I received a strange painting. He gestured for Xiao Liu to fetch it over. The painting lacked any mounting, and it was simply rolled up. Rong Qing spread it out for them to see. At the center of the scene stood a granary, with countless people arranged around it, transporting grain away. On the left, a man in an official's robes sat with his servants flanking him, indulging in a feast as he surveyed the activity. The workers buzzed about in convincing urgency. On the right side of the painting, near the granary, there was a small mountain of bodies. Men and women, old and young, all sprawled on the ground in various unnatural postures. Their emaciated and jaundiced forms exuded agony. Some lay dead, while others clung precariously to life. One man was depicted gnawing on a severed limb, while nearby, a child missing an arm wailed as blood streamed across the ground. That is a vivid and gruesome image. When one looked only at the left and center of the painting, it appeared ordinary, but in combination with the right side, the effect was stomach-turning. Rong Qing remembered the shock he'd had when he first laid eyes on the painting. He'd stared at it blankly, oblivious to the passage of time. Now he watched as Chubuchu cast it the briefest of glances. The man didn't even blink. Yeah, there will be more injustices to innocence in this arc. Meng Xi Shi, what is wrong with you? As expected, a man of callous ambition, thought Rong Qing. This man, Rong Qing tapped the official depicted eating on the left side of the painting. Guangqian County was officially a first-tier county, which means their magistrate holds 6th rank status. But after 2 years of natural disasters, the county was downgraded to 2nd tier. Their magistrate Huang Lue should have accordingly been demoted to 7th rank. Since his debriefing before the court has yet to arrive, he retains his rank for the time being. The man in the painting is dressed in a scarlet minister's robe devoid of ornamentation. Although his face isn't clearly visible, he can be none other than Huang Lue. So you believe someone sent you an anonymous report after learning of your arrival, suggesting that the county magistrate, Huang Lue, has been embezzling grain and misreporting the disaster. Correct. Rong Qing had been rattled, but he'd managed to follow his more rational instincts and refrain from immediately confronting Huang Lue. Still, he couldn't contain his restlessness and had thus opted for a more indirect approach. He'd sought out other officials in Guangqian County in hopes of gleaning more information. In truth, it was this that had led to his conversation with Deputy Magistrate Li Yan, in which he'd witnessed the man's hesitant, stumbling answers. He'd also discovered that aside from Li Yan, several officials in Guangqian County were on poor terms with Huang Lue. For example, County Lieutenant Wu Yi. The three most important officials of Guangqian County, the magistrate, the deputy magistrate, and the county lieutenant, appeared united. But once Rong Qing scratched the surface, he found a game of deep intrigue beneath the bloodless flash of hostilities playing out on the surface. There was only so much Rong Qing could uncover in one day, but the next night he received a second painting. It was on the same type of paper with the same brushstrokes. Rong Qing unrolled the second painting in front of Chu Wuchu. This time, there were no officials, yet the imagery was, if anything, more chilling. Amid the surging floodwaters, broken off branches bobbed and corpses drifted. Black-haired head floated among them, gazing up at the sky, the expression on its face twisted in a silent wail of despair. In the distance lay the city, while in the foreground stood an old tree atop a hill. Beneath its outstretched limbs, a man knelt in the mud, desperately digging with his bare hands. Several hands lay to the side, seemingly unearthed from the mire, their half-rotted flesh clinging to a denser thicket of white bone. It was a scene of approaching hell where all traces of the Buddhas had vanished. Guan Shanhai had been observing quietly from the side, yet when he saw the painting, he let out an involuntary gasp. Rong Qing looked at him knowingly. That's right. This is the tree where I was stranded today. It was this painting that compelled me to travel there myself to see if it really existed. He'd proven that the tree was real, but before he could start digging, the rain had caused the floodwaters to rise precipitously. Had Guang Shanhai not arrived at that moment, Rong Qing would likely be a wandering ghost. Now Chief Chu must understand that there was a reason behind my actions. Chubuchu ignored his aggrieved tone. Then I assume you're now even more suspicious of Huang Lue? Rongqing nodded. Huang Lue vehemently opposed my proposal to survey the lands outside the city, and County Lieutenant Wu was also notably absent. Instead, it was Li Yan, the deputy magistrate, who accompanied me. This practically proves that something's suspicious about Huang Lue. Any reasonable person would object to leaving the city in the middle of a relentless rainstorm and a raging flood. Why didn't you suspect Li Yan of ulterior motives? Perhaps he was taking the opportunity to silence you. Rong Qing paused, momentarily speechless. Hong Lue is the magistrate of Guangqian County. In almost every matter, he's the one with the final say. What can a deputy magistrate like Li Yan do? But it was not just Guangqian County that's affected. Most of the region is underwater. If I were in your position, I wouldn't let two questionable paintings cloud my judgment. By now, Rong Qing was convinced Chu Wuchu disliked him and that he was deliberately making his life difficult at every turn. He couldn't be bothered trying to convince him. Sometimes there was no point in further conversation. He changed the topic. Tomorrow, Huang Lue is hosting a banquet for all the wealthy families in the city to discuss relief efforts. He has invited me as well. If Chief Chu refuses to believe me, come see for yourself who the heroes and villains are in this situation. The final cold snort. Chu Rong walked away. Rong Qing walked away. I should probably start counting how many times I call Rong Qing Chi Rong. Oy, how convoluted, Guang Shanhai thought. It was as if a dense fog enveloped them, refusing all their efforts to clear it. Guan Shanhai was accustomed to the straightforward conflicts of the battlefield. He had never encountered a situation with as many complexities as this one. To an uninformed observer, duties seemed clearly assigned across the various ranks of officials, yet closer inspection suggested things weren't so simple. The court had dispersed a substantial amount of grain, but had it truly been needed? A feud was simmering between County Magistrate Huang and Deputy Magistrate Li. Were they using Rongqing? Who had sent him those paintings and why? Did someone wish to show him the truth, or were they trying to eliminate him? The more Guang Shanhai pondered the situation, the more his head throbbed. Thank the heavens he was a military official. It wasn't his responsibility to deal with matters of this type. Still, he doubted Chubuchu was so godlike he could effortlessly unravel the situation the instant he descended upon the county. I mean, Chiamo? Just saying. What he did know was that in order to catch up with Rongqing, Chubuchu had to cut his planned travel time in half. His already fragile health seemed to have deteriorated further over the journey, yet he had never uttered a word of complaint. Guang Shanhai was still unhappy about his new assignment, but his antipathy toward Chubuchu had softened. He couldn't resist whispering, "How did you know Sensor Wrong was in danger?" Right? Chubuchu really is that good. Yes. Here, Rongqing is a knife. Whoever wields him will use him to threaten others. Chubuchu heaved a sigh. Perhaps we'll soon witness a few of the many ways in which Rongqing might meet his end. Huh? Guan Shanhai was perplexed. He hadn't a clue what Chubuchu meant. Rongqing, too, was perplexed. He was seated among the wealthy and renowned of the city, in the garden behind the county office. At County Magistrate Huang Lui's invitation, everyone had come to the banquet to discuss the floods plaguing the county. What baffled Rongqing was that Chubuchu, full of cutting sarcasm just the day before, was now sitting behind him as meekly as any sheep. He'd put on a false beard and introduced himself to the assembly as Chu Xiansheng. With this small change to his appearance and demeanor, he transformed himself into Rongqing's very own close aide. The members of the local literati and the merchants were terribly curious about this imperial censor Rong. Nearly everyone came up for some polite conversation or to ingratiate themselves. In the process, they inevitably noticed Chubuchu behind him. A few curious souls directed a question or two his way, but he remained reserved and silent until Rongqing stepped in to answer on his behalf. Rongqing knew Chubuchu wished to conceal his identity, and that suited him perfectly. He had no desire for anyone to learn that the so-called aide at his shoulder was in fact a representative of the Shuyue Bureau. If word got out, people might think the court didn't trust Rongqing and had sent someone to monitor him. But he hadn't anticipated Chubuchu would be such a flawless actor. Watching him now, it was as though he was a different person entirely. He aimed to portray a reticent subordinate, and he truly didn't say a word. Even his gaze became gentle and harmless, his tone soft. The sharpness of his previous day was nowhere to be found. As more guests arrived to greet him, Rongqing had no more attention to spare for Chubuchu's dramatic transformation. Drastic, not dramatic, drastic. I mean, it could work as drastic, too. He noted that the majority of those in attendance were young, many the eldest or second sons in their family. Very few patriarchs were present. One young man was particularly eye-catching. He appeared around 20, with conspicuous good looks. He was the 14th child in the Liu family. 14th. Wow. He was the 14th child in the Liu family, a number from which he took his name, Meng Xi Shi, and a distant relative of Deputy Magistrate Li himself. Rongqing only now learned that Li Yan belonged to a well-off local clan, the Li family. They were apparently influential throughout all of Guangqian County. Li Shi had arrived with his cousin, the eldest son of the Li family. His companion was a stoic young man, and by contrast, Li Shi was bursting with energy. He bounced around the gathering, toasting everyone he encountered, and approached Rong Qing several times, disregarding formalities and bombarding the censor with questions. His curiosity extended to Chu as well, as he stood at Rong Qing's side. I hear Chu Xiancheng hails from the Southern Dynasty. Why did you choose to come north rather than remaining an official there? What kind of scenery does the Southern Dynasty have? Is it only filled with mountains, rivers, and flowers, with melodious songs playing everywhere you go? Li Shi pressed forward with each question until he was a hair's breadth from Chu. If it weren't for his youthful charm and the curiosity shining on his face, he'd likely have been reprimanded already for his rudeness. Chu gave him a bashful smile. Not everyone who aspires to be an official can achieve this goal. I lack proficiency in both the pen and the sword, so I sought refuge with my relatives in the north. Fortunately, Censor Rong was kind enough to hire me and let me help him with copying paperwork. As for the scenery you mentioned, I believe there's little difference between the mountains and rivers of the north and the south. Goodness, Chu Xianqing, your wrists are so slim and delicate. Li Shi's eyes sparkled like he'd discovered some new treasure. He caught Chu's wrist and refused to let go. I've heard many men in the South are interested in other men, and some even have strange tastes, like a preference for older ones. I wonder, did you attract that type of attention? Is that why you ran away to take refuge in the North? Well, that's another shameless count right there. He didn't hold back at all with his questions, did he? Hang on. I think something's marked wrong. Yeah, it was marked wrong. Okay. Wait. Sorry, I'm just making sure that I'm reading the right amount so everything works out next time. Did I not change that? Sorry. Sorry. My notes don't match how far I said I was going to read. I have an ancestor from the early 1800s who had over 30 kids. I was so shocked when I found out. It was like 18 kids with one lady and 12 with the other or something like. Wow. Wow. That kid was breaking a few land speed records. First wife died. Well, I'm guessing. Although, yeah. It was insane. Yeah. different times, I'll say. Have to change that. Okay. 133. 155.30. Okay. Chapter 133. Chubuchu yanked his wrist away, but failed to win himself free. Everyone around them looked over, including Rong Qing. The censor wore an expression of amusement as he watched the young man's frivolous antics. Had Li Shishi been teasing a beautiful woman, Rong Qing would likely have already intervened. But Chubuchu was wearing a beard and clearly a scholar. I think they missed clearly was or and was clearly a scholar, not to mention secretly an agent of the Shuyui Bureau. Rong Qing silently recalled all the most terrifying rumors he'd heard about them, and one thought filled his mind. This man really has some nerve. He gazed at Li Shi in sympathy. If Chubuchu had come as himself, Li Shishi would by now have been sliced into several dozen pieces by his glare, then tossed into a sizzling wok. But at that moment, Chubuchu was Chu Xiansheng, Rong Qing's personal aide, shy and taciturn. His behavior presented a character wholly different from the normal Chubuchu. On Chu Xiansheng's face was a mixture of shock and confusion, as if he'd received a grave and unexpected insult. "Unhand me!" he exclaimed. He shook off the other man's grip and this time succeeded. But as Li Shishi released him, his fingers brushed lightly over Chu Buchu's palm, a playful and flirtatious gesture. It seemed this young man was quite experienced in the art of seduction, with no preference between men and women. And that is our ancient times flirting. So we're at 75, I think. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75. He turned to Rong Qing. Censor Rong, Chu Xianqing and I share a natural rampart. Might you be willing to give him to me? Only name your price. Ridiculous. Chu Xiansheng is a human being, not an object. Rong Qing reproached him. How can you say such a thing? Please leave us be. Rong Qing had come ready for a battle of wits and courage. He hadn't anticipated Li Shishi and the young man's sudden appearance disrupting his momentum completely. Shishi Lang, mind your manners. The eldest son of the Leaf family bustled over, bowing to Rong Qing with a helpless expression. Please forgive him, Censor Rong. My cousin was raised in Luoyang as the son of a widow. I'm afraid he's become rather willful. Censor, you're a generous man. Please don't let yourself be upset by the likes of him. Li Shishi's face was the picture of uncertain. What do you mean I'm willful, cousin? This is called being true to myself. I've no interest in the singers here. I want this gentleman. He's not Censor Rong's wife, son, or father, so why can't he give him to me? I'll offer Chu Shang some money and hire him as a scribe. Working for him or working for me. What difference is there? Rong Qing's face darkened, and he raised his voice. Did Magistrate Huang invite me here so I could witness such a farce? Upon hearing the commotion, County Magistrate Huang Lue hurried over with his escort. The Li family pushed Li Shishi back toward his seat, scolding him as they went. Li Shishi murmured in dissatisfaction, but tried nothing further after his cousin's reprimand. He remained seated, his gaze wandering often toward Chubuchu. When Chubuchu glanced over, the young man responded with a cheerful grin. 25 more shamelessness to go. That's right, Truffle. Chubuchu's face remained blank. He looked away. Though Rong Qing was a guest, he was also an envoy with the important position of imperial censor. County Magistrate Huang Lue graciously gave him the seat of honor. Sitting at Rong Qing's side, Chubuchu was conveniently afforded a clear view of the entire venue. The guests at the banquet were all local landlords from prominent families. As their wealth was in the land, the current disaster was a harsh blow. Once the floodwaters receded, their harvest would be ruined. They wouldn't be able to collect taxes this year, even if they wished to. They looked around with strained smiles, striving to keep their spirits up, but none were in any mood to enjoy a feast, even if the offerings had been mythical phoenix livers. Yummy. Huang Lue took the seat below Rong Qing's and raised his voice to be heard. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't think of holding a banquet with the flood ongoing. However, today we're graced with the presence of some esteemed scholars from our city. They were delighted to hear Censor Rong had come to assess the situation and offered to visit as soon as possible. This humble magistrate thought it best to summon all of them here at once so you could speak to them. The censor was only here to make inquiries about the flooding and oversee the relief efforts. Supplying grain to the displaced victims would be his priority, lest the people's desperation turn into rebellion. In this respect, the affluent landlords had nothing to gain from the censor, so none of them were enthusiastic about the banquet. When Huang Lue said that they had offered to visit, they silently cursed him for distorting the truth to flatter their guest. Rong Qing, on the other hand, was pleased by Huang Lue's tact. Huang Lue hadn't taken the initiative to invite him, he'd have had to seek out all the prominent families in the county himself. His orders weren't simply to assess the situation, but also to ensure the grain had genuinely gone to disaster relief and that the landlords weren't colluding with the local officials to profit from the situation. He'd only recently been appointed censor, and this was his first official trip outside the capital. He consulted a senior official for guidance before he left and committed all his advice to memory. In short, he was quite satisfied with Huang Lue's performance. There was no delicacies on offer at tonight's banquet. The menu featured many ordinary vegetarian dishes, almost overly humble. Rong Qing even spotted a dish from his own hometown. Although he suspected Huang Lue had arranged it to pander to him, it was only a simple plate of cold vegetables, so he enjoyed it without guilt. Everyone took turns coming up to toast him, including Deputy Magistrate Li Yan and County Lieutenant Wu Yi. Rong Qing couldn't snub them, so in spite of the... I'm going to start that paragraph over because I fumbled everything. Everyone took turns coming up to toast him, including Deputy Magistrate Li Yan and County Lieutenant Wu Yi. Rong Qing couldn't snub them, so in the spirit of the occasion, he took a few small sips of wine. Before the alcohol could affect him, he set down his cup and cleared his throat. Although the imperial court has indeed allotted supplies for disaster relief, on my journey here I witnessed firsthand the raging floods that have submerged so many homes and fields. This disaster has displaced the common folk, leaving countless families devastated. While Magistrate Huang has permitted the victims to enter the city, the grain from the court will feed them for less than 2 weeks. Even if the floods recede and rice is replanted, it won't be ready for harvest until next spring. Before that, your people here must endure a harsh winter. All the guests present were well educated. They didn't need him to elaborate. Everyone saw where he was going with the speech. A middle-aged man named surnamed Ding interrupted him. We all greatly admire Censor Rong's compassion and concern for the people. When the flood arrived, the waters drowned our fields. My kind-hearted mother couldn't bear to see our tenant farmers starve, so she took food from our family's warehouses to feed them. Now we're left with nothing. The county has been completely devastated by this disaster. We're forced to import food to feed our own children. It's too expensive for my family to bear. I implore Censor Rong to think of a way to save us. Before coming, Rong Qing had heard that the Ding family were the largest landowners in the county, and that one of their number served as an official in court. As soon as the man spoke up, others hurried to voice their agreement. That's right! Our fields were submerged too! We've no more food in our stores! We implore the censor to petition the court for more grain! Censor Rong, your lordship must think of the people! Their cries poured in from every side, leaving Rong Qing dumbfounded. He'd come here tonight, planning to ask the landlords to donate their surplus food, but instead they'd seized their chance to bemoan their own poverty. Now it was too late to say what he'd intended. County Magistrate Li made a timely interjection. Everyone, censor Wrong, arrived just a few days ago. He's here with us now to gain a better understanding of the situation. If you have any grievances, feel free to voice them. But after tonight, anyone found slandering the imperial court will face serious consequences. While Huang Lue had watched coldly from the sidelines, Li Yan had stepped up to speak. Rong Qing's fondness for Li Yan grew. Yet before he could respond, a familiar voice rang out. Deputy Magistrate Li, please forgive my humble self for disagreeing with your words. Rong Qing looked over and realized the speaker was none other than Meng Xi Shi, the young man who'd teased Chu. There are countless rumors flying about at the moment. People are saying the court will send no more relief and that we must fend for ourselves. We didn't spread these tales. Our family used to provide our servants with 3 meals a day, but now we can only afford to give them 2. Everyone is suffering hardships. Our situation isn't much better than the refugees. It's only because we live in the city that our homes are still intact. But if the rain persists, it won't be long before the flood engulfs the city as well, and then all of Guangqian County will face ruin. Should we stay here or leave while we still can? We implore Censor Wrong to assist us in this decision. Oh, yep, there we go. Injustice to service workers. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 36. Good catch, Truffle. Li Shishi's tone was flippant. He displayed a complete lack of restraint and little respect for Rong Qing. The young man was acting exactly like the spoiled, hedonistic son of a rich family. At least they're still feeding them, but... No, I get it. Rong Qing's expression darkened. We're all in the same boat and facing the same challenges, yet here you are talking about fleeing to save yourselves. On the battlefield, this kind of talk would destroy an army's morale. I'll tell you the truth. The contents of the court's warehouses are limited. Many flood victims are at risk of starving and freezing to death during the oncoming winter. Aside from the fact that you'll have no farmers and thus no crops next year, discontent among the people will breed in unrest. At that point, your family will be the one that is in trouble. Yeah, that's definitely suspicious. Here it comes, the assembly thought. After all that beating around the bush, Censor Wrong finally got to the point. Of course he hopes to squeeze the landlords for food and money, but why would we relinquish them so easily? The court may still step in and spare us the trouble. Li Shi spoke again, giving voice to what everyone was thinking. You're wrong, Censor Wrong. If that happens, we can simply leave. The man named Ding sighed. Censor Wrong. Of course we wish to support our hometown, but while we possess the heart, we lack the means. Others chimed in as well. That's right! We can't even save ourselves. How could we be expected to save others? That's enough! Huang Lue finally spoke. Over the past 2 years, Guangqian Commandery has established a policy of donating food to the official granaries in return for tax reductions. Thanks to this, we could support ourselves in the face of small setbacks. Unfortunately, the current flooding is a major disaster. The imperial court has provided grain, but it also requires contributions from its citizens. As with the previous 2 years, we can continue to offer tax reductions for those who donate food. However, we need everyone's input on what these reductions should look like. Let's discuss this matter openly and share our ideas. Everyone exchanged glances, but it was the persistently annoying Li Shishi who spoke up once more. Magistrate Huang, we've told you already. It's not that we're unwilling to donate. We simply don't have food to spare. Even if the county waives a decade of taxes, we have nothing to contribute. Rong Ching felt tonight's meal was one of the most miserable experiences of his life. He'd thought he had a grasp on the situation in Guangqian County. Tonight, he'd planned to make a strong impression in his new role and maybe even show off in front of Chu, hoping to put a dent in that impressive aura. But he hadn't anticipated the obstacles he'd face at every turn. Not only were the landlords uncooperative, even the officials of Guangqian County displayed little enthusiasm for his cause. Who had sent him those two anonymous paintings? Ron Ching had hoped to use the banquet to ferret out a clue or two, but the responses from the officials and landlords had put him on the back foot. Chu had remained silent the entire time. He's probably laughing at this farce, Rong Ching thought glumly. His spirit sank even lower, and without realizing it, he reached for his wine cup more frequently. It was true, Chu thought Rong Ching too inexperienced. He felt the man had been led around by the nose all night, but his attention wasn't truly focused on him. Li Shishi's initial behavior had led him to suspect his new acquaintance was Feng Xiao in disguise. Changing one's age and appearance wasn't particularly surprising. Xiao Xian could do it too. They themselves had engaged in a game of disguise back in the Western Cognate. Li Shishi was flashy and ostentatious, just like Feng Xiao. But when Li Shishi raised a toast to County Lieutenant Wu Yi, a spontaneous look of obsequiousness had crept over his face, and Chubachu's confidence had faltered. Feng Xiao had never displayed such humility and submissiveness toward anyone in Chubachu's experience. That Feng bastard acted careless and never took anything seriously, but deep down he was measurably proud. He looked down on everyone who wasn't him, so asking him to act humbly or submissive toward anyone was an impossible task. Li Shishi was therefore merely Li Shishi. He couldn't have anything to do with the Feng bastard. Chubachu frowned and lowered his lashes. It was the first time he'd been confused about his own suspicions. He had left the city without a word. Even if Feng Er noticed his absence, he couldn't have located him so quickly, let alone chased after him and created an entirely new identity by the time Chubachu arrived. So why did Chubachu feel so full of doubts? Why did thoughts of Feng Er linger in his mind no matter whom he encountered? Probably connected to the fact that you're calling him Feng Er in your brain. Hint, hint. All right, 3 more chapters. It's going to be a long one tonight. All right, 134 to 1430. Well, Chubuchu observed Li Shishi. He himself was being observed. Most people's attention remained on Rong Qing, the star of tonight's gathering. Chubuchu had kept a low profile, submerging himself in his role as a clerk who handled paperwork more often than people. A man who rarely made social appearances and was unfamiliar with such grand settings. The clerk he was playing had never been to a banquet like this. He felt at a loss and somewhat shy. He spoke little, was reluctant to join any conversation, and was helpless in the face of harassment from a playboy like Li Shi. Rong Cheng hadn't hurried to help his aide out of the awkward situation. Yes, be sus! Be very sus! Rong Cheng hadn't hurried to help his aide out of the awkward situation. The two seldom conversed, and their expressions demonstrated a clear distance. It seemed Rong Cheng was not particularly close to his aide. Perhaps he had no one competent around him and had been forced to hastily choose someone to fill the role. Just as the rumor said, Censor Rong was new to his post and had only a superficial understanding of the situation he'd found himself in. A place like Guangqian County, it was inevitable that he'd be played for a fool. Some people considered this information thoughtfully, while others relaxed and felt relieved. Again, not suspicious at all. Rong Ching noticed the sly gazes on him, but he couldn't exactly slam his hands on the table and leap up to confront the guests. It would only breed further contempt. The wine in his cup smelled faintly of sweet grass. It was likely a local specialty. He downed a cup and savored the aftertaste. As he watched the wine rippling against the rim, his eyelids began to droop. Chu Chu would have watched coldly from the sidelines, but Chu Xiancheng was in Rong Ching's service. It was unusual if he didn't offer any advice. My lord, you should drink a little less. County Magistrate Huang is watching you, he whispered. It's none of your business. Wine truly bolstered one's courage. Rong Ching had initially been wary around Chu Chu, but now he had thrown caution to the wind. Chu Chu adopted a look of helplessness, then coughed a few times. His face was pale. The maid serving wine couldn't resist bending down and whispering in his ear. My lord, there's some lime wine at the residence, which should help with intoxication. Should I fetch it? Chu Chu looked up at the maid's delicate features in surprise. The girl blushed faintly and lowered her head. Then I must trouble the lady. It's no trouble at all, the maid quietly replied. Although this gentleman was on the older side, she found him gentle and considerate. She was a common girl working as a maid in the county office's back courtyard, and in a couple of years she would be seeking a husband. If she could find one like Chu Xiancheng, who was older and understood how to care for others, wouldn't that be perfect? See, I like her. She's reasonable. At that thought, the maid's cheeks grew pinker still. You can call me Juer, she said hastily before going to fetch the wine. Chu Chu hadn't anticipated that even as the frustrated aide of an imperial censor, he would attract a bit of romance. But he had no time to ponder this, because County Magistrate Huang was approaching with a cup in his hand. Oh, I didn't even think of that, Truffle. Man! Now I'm going to worry about her. Censor Wrong has traveled a long way. I should have thrown a grand banquet to welcome you, but unfortunately Guangqian County is struggling in the floods. This banquet is hardly worthy of you. I ask for your understanding, Censor Wrong. Rong Ching slowly stood. His mind was still clear, although his hand holding the cup trembled slightly. Meng Xi Shi and Fei are really rough on the minor characters. Yeah, they are. Got a counter just for them. Ay, ay, ay. Since the wrong has traveled a long way, I should have thrown a grand banquet to welcome you, but unfortunately, Guangqian County is struggling in these floods. This banquet is hardly worthy of you. I ask for your understanding, Censor Rong. Rong Ching slowly stood. His mind was still clear, although his hand holding the cup trembled slightly. May I ask when Governor Yang will arrive? He inquired, referring to Yang Yun, the local commandery governor. The reunion in particular was really racking up the body count. Oh boy. Huang Lue looked apologetic. The whole commandery has been battered by the disaster, and Governor Yang is busy with official duties. I've just been informed he won't make it tonight. Really? Rongqing was instantly upset. One of the principal reasons he attended tonight's banquet was because Huang Lue had assured him Commander Governor Yang would be present. But he wasn't. Not only had he not shown up, he hadn't even sent a deputy to make his excuses, but simply had a servant relay the message to Huang Lue. It was an obvious slight. From top to bottom, no one in Guangqian County took Rongqing seriously as imperial censor, nor were they concerned in the least with what he might report to the emperor. Yang Yun was a royal relative, the emperor's nephew, and had a good relationship with the crown prince, Yang Yang. He no doubt thought himself untouchable. As it stood, Rongqing couldn't prove the officials of Guangqian County were derelict in their duties. They had diligently provided disaster relief to the flood victims. The granaries had been emptied, and since the waters outside the city had yet to recede, the county magistrate was working hard to shelter as many refugees as possible. If Rongqing accused them of wrongdoing without evidence, he would be the one to face the consequences. Chubachu's voice suddenly rang in his ears. If I were you, I wouldn't have come to the banquet tonight. Although annoyed, Rongqing still couldn't help plucking up his ears to listen. You have nothing on them, yet you want them to cough up their possessions. You might as well rob them in broad daylight. It'd be faster. It's no surprise Yang Yun didn't appear tonight. Before coming here, I sent my people to investigate. Although Guangqian County has also always suffered from floods, previous years were not nearly so dramatic. Rongqing's heart stirred. He couldn't stop himself from asking. So, in other words, within the last 2 years, they never reached the point of needing to donate grain for exemption from taxes. Are Yang Yun and Huang Lue deceiving the emperor? Chubachu looked down at the banquet table, his expression unchanged. From what I know, in the first year of the Kai Huang era, Guangqian harvested around 300 tons of grain. Last year, it was 180 tons. The imperial warehouses sent grain after this flood, yet Huang Lue claims the county granaries are empty. Do you dare believe it? So I wasn't wrong, Rongqing murmured. No, you're wrong. You are wrong. You're wrong, Ching. Hey! I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. There's definitely something fishy going on here. Don't alert the enemy before you need to, said Chubachu. Get to the bottom of everything first. What we need is proof of their guilt. If we have that, threatening them with their families, seizing them and killing them, sending heads rolling, that will all be on the table and everything will fall neatly into place. It doesn't matter if the guilty party is Yang Yun or Huang Lue. If they try to make a scene, we'll simply make a bigger one. His voice was very low, meant for Rongqing's ears alone. Though he spoke softly, a shiver ran through Rongqing at the murderous intent behind Chubachu's words, clearing his mind somewhat. As expected of the Shuyui Bureau chief, a man who could kill people without blinking. Rongqing recalled the many rumors about Chubuchu, most famous among them the recent incident at the Thousand Lantern Banquet, at which he'd brazenly confronted the most cherished of royal children, Princess Li Ping. Was there anyone he wouldn't dare kill? A chill raced down Rongqing's spine. He frowned. Such ruthless methods will put innocents in harm's way. We're here to expose corruption, not unleash a massacre. Chubuchu looked at him in astonishment. May I ask, since we're wrong, how much corruption have you exposed so far? Thank you, Esper Lady. I just saw the badoom. Rongqing tamped down his anger. Don't try to provoke me. I'll never do as you wish. If I did, what difference would there be between me, an imperial censor, and the thugs of the Shuyue Bureau? Before the maid Juer could bring over the lime wine, the alcohol had gone to Rongqing's head. His exchange with Chupa Chu had drained the last of his clarity. He swayed and collapsed against the banquet table. Thank you. Chupa Chu shook him worriedly. My lord! My lord! Deputy Magistrate Li Yan looked over and sighed. Ah, Censor Wrong is so distressed over our plight here. All his worries have left him more susceptible to the wine. That or you drugged him. Huang Lue quickly ordered someone to take Rongqing away to rest. Chubuchu rose to follow when Huang Lue glanced at him and smiled. Chu Xianche, you've accompanied Censor Rong the past few days and have also been working hard. Tonight, take some time to relax. Censor Rong is our distinguished guest. Since your censor collapsed before the banquet ended, you should drink a few more cups on his behalf. I know what side I'm on. Chubuchu could scarcely refuse. He obediently drank 2 more cups. His cheeks were visibly flushed as he waved his hands and coughed. I really can't drink another drop. I truly can't. Lian and several others laughed to see him shed his tidy appearance. Chu Xian's Shang is so honest. Tell him to drink, and he really drinks. As the saying goes, the servant takes after the master. But Chu Xiansheng appears much more generous than Censor Wrong. I wonder if Censor Wrong has any other plans for this trip. The seemingly innocent question came amid the barrage of jokes. Unable to hold his drink, Chubuchu shook his head and propped his forehead in his hands. I don't know where my lord plans to go. Wherever it is, he won't take me along. He doesn't trust me. Grievance and injustice filled Chu Xianqing's reddened eyes, which shimmered as though he were truly drunk. Seeing that they wouldn't be getting any information out of him, the crowd lost interest. Only Li Sensi, who was wandering about toasting everyone in sight, approached again, attempting to shove a full cup of wine into Chubuchu's hands. You already tried to hit that. You don't take drinks from someone who just tried to hit that and failed. When Chubuchu tried to refuse, Li Shishi's expression became serious. What? Chu Xianqing will drink wine from others, but not for me. Is the cup I gave you poisoned? And we got a picture. Chubuchu can actually pull off a beard pretty well. It's not too super long. Like it's I mean, it's not super my taste, but like it's tasteful. Yeah, I'm also looking at the background characters. They look mighty suspicious. All the sparkles around him. My goodness. Yeah, not bad. It actually looks realistic. The other good guy looks really slappable. That he does. Chubuchu gazed back at him, his unfocused eyes brimming with guileless innocence. Li Shishi laughed and grabbed Chubuchu's hand, half forcing him to tip the cup back. Chu Xianxing, if things aren't going well with Censor Wrong, why not seek out greener pastures? What pastures? I was expecting something like the mustache scene in Rebirth. No. What pastures? Chubuchu blinked sluggishly as though he hadn't understood the question. Censor Wrong is stubborn and inflexible. What benefit is there in following him? Chu Xianxing must work to support himself, right? Censor Wrong has only just arrived in Guangxian. He wants to make a splash, but he hasn't bothered to ask if anyone else is willing. He's a lamb who's not afraid of tigers. There's no need for you to cling to a piece of rotten wood and sink along with it. Why not take this opportunity to change employers? Chibuchu frowned. Sir, I've failed in my scholarly pursuits. I can only write and copy documents for a living. Who would want me other than Censor Wrong? Our Leaf family is one of the county's most prominent clans, and I happen to need someone with your skills. Come with me, and you won't struggle to make ends meet like you do now. I'll pay you double whatever Censor Wrong is offering, Li Shishi said grandly. Chubuchu frowned and remained silent, as if unable to make a decision. Li Shishi didn't mind waiting for a response. While his back was to the crowd, drinking and chatting, he took the chance to discreetly run his fingers over the tender flesh of Chubuchu's wrist. And 76. The rough sensation made Chubuchu tremble, and his face, already flushed from the wine, went even redder. Even if Chu Xianxing were a complete and total fool, he'd have understood Li Shishi was flirting with him. Seeing that he was getting angry, Li Shishi leaned in with a smile. Chu Xianxing, I really do like you. I'm genuinely thinking of your well-being. Your life under Censor Wrong is just too hard. In fact, your life might even be in danger. Think about it carefully. Once you realize I'm right, simply go to the Xiangji restaurant and mention my name. The owner knows how to contact me. He drew closer again, and Chubuchu leaned back slightly out of his reach. Li Langjun. Li Shi smirked. Why be so direct? Why be so distant? It would be better to drop the June. Getting ahead of himself there. Li Langjun, might I ask? Chubuchu's voice was hoarse and melodious. Do you happen to know a man with the surname Fang? Li Shishi thought maybe he'd misheard. Fang, he echoed in confusion. I don't believe my family knows anyone with the surname for over 8 generations. Why do you ask? It seems I've mistaken you for someone else, Chubuchu replied coolly. You resemble him somewhat. Li Shishi ran with the topic, laughing. I didn't expect Chu Xiancheng to enjoy such games. All right, call me Feng Shishi when we meet in private. Chubuchu shot to his feet. Magistrate Huang, I fear the wine has done me in. Please allow me to take my leave. Huang Lue waved a magnanimous hand. Juer, take Chu Xiansheng to rest. Li Shishi didn't chase after Chubuchu. He returned to his cousin, only to be scolded again. Stop running around doing whatever you please. It's one thing to behave so preposterously when things are normal, but why torment Censor Wrong's aide today? I was just trying to probe for details about Censor Wrong. For you, Li Shishi said sweetly. He's the only aide Censor Wrong brought. He must know something of his plans. If we make inroads with him, maybe we can drive Sensorong away. The eldest son of the Lee family snorted. You're better off watching out for yourself. Large matters such as this aren't for you to interfere in. Meng Xi Shi flashed him an abashed smile and bowed his head under the rebuke. All of the audacity he'd displayed with Chupa Chu seemed to have vanished. I'm only trying to help. Otherwise, Uncle will send me back to my hometown right after I got chased out. How embarrassing that would be. You! Exasperated, the Lee family eldest son shook his head at his cousin's failings. Rong Ching had a splitting headache. He opened his bleary eyes and was startled to see a half-naked woman sleeping beside him. Panicked, he bent down to check his clothing, as tense as a chaste maiden. I thought Sensorong was looking for a night of passion. Why does he look like a woman who'd been abducted to a bandit's stronghold? Rong Ching's head jerked up. A man stood by the door, his lips quirked in a half-smile. It was none other than Chuba Chu, who had been drunk and stumbling just a short while ago. Ooh, it was a setup. I was like, something is wrong with that wine. $2.37. 15. Chapter 135. I had some wine. Rong Ching trailed off. There was no need to elaborate. Drinking created problems. He planned to just get a little tipsy, but he'd vastly overestimated his tolerance. The wine was sweet, so he hadn't worried overmuch. But after downing one cup after another, things had spiraled out of control. He'd passed out, oblivious to everything around him, and ended up in a honey trap. Who knew how many truths he'd spilled while drunk? Would Huang Lue use this to threaten him? Rong Ching's mind raced. His face was ashen. He no longer cared whether Chuba Chu thought he was a fool. He does think you're a fool. I think you're a fool. He had come here to accurately assess the situation, not land himself in hot water. His career as an official was just beginning. He couldn't afford any missteps. No matter how beautiful the woman, Rong Ching believed he had the self-discipline to resist temptation. Yet now he'd gotten drunk and delivered himself straight into the enemy's hands. If not for me, you'd be drowning in the charms of a woman right now. As Chubachu approached, Rong Ching felt a wave of guilt and instinctively shrank back. Yet in the next moment, he realized what he'd done, and his face burned with embarrassment. It suddenly dawned on him why he'd gone to such lengths to avoid Chuba Chu. Chu Xianqian's gaze was razor sharp, as if there was nothing he couldn't see through. What left his mouth was mostly biting mockery. To him, Rong Ching's passionate enthusiasm was merely foolhardy courage. Everyone yearned to hear praise and desired to see beauty, and Rong Ching was no exception. But this yearning had nearly led him to disaster. If Chuba Chu hadn't woken him, even if he sprouted 8 mouths in the morning, there wouldn't be enough to profess his innocence. Rong Ching steeled himself. Thank you, Chu Xianqing. I was careless, he admitted. Chuba Chu hadn't the slightest interest in cowing Rong Ching. He didn't bat an eye as Rong Ching attempted to get out of bed and put on his boots. Lie down. You can't leave. Huh? Rongqing was momentarily stunned, but he soon understood. If he left now, he'd offend Huang Lui's pride and make it difficult to conduct any future investigations. He opened his mouth to speak, then hesitated and looked back at the woman in the bed. He couldn't tell if she was asleep or merely pretending, which made conversations inconvenient. Chubuchu leaned forward and patted the woman's cheek, his touch anything but gentle. Wake up! The beauty woke in a daze and found two men looking down at her. She opened her mouth to scream, but Chubuchu was faster. He clapped one hand over her mouth and struck the back of her neck with the other. The woman went limp and collapsed. Now she was unconscious for certain. Rongqing was speechless. He'd expected nothing less of the notorious Shuyu Bureau. Even their chief was ruthless. I took a look around outside when I came in, he heard Chubuchu say. If Huang Lui and his allies intended to corrupt Rongqing, there was no need to set anyone outside to eavesdrop on him. As long as he spent the night here, people would assume he was on Huang Lui's side. Rongqing pondered for a moment. If I leave at dawn, won't the person who sent the paintings think I've submitted to Huang Lui? They might stop sending clues altogether. Shouldn't I instead pretend to wake up in the middle of the night, make a scene, and leave? So he wasn't completely hopeless after all. Chubuchu's mouth curled into a smirk. Perhaps. But how much of a scene can you make on your own? Rongqing shot him a quizzical look. Li Yan had also drunk immoderately at the banquet. By the end of the night, his servants had to help him stumble into the carriage. He slept soundly until the next morning, when a trusted aide came in with reports of a major incident at Magistrate Huang's residence the previous night. Censor Rong had woken in the dead of the night to discover a beautiful woman at his side. Enraged, she stormed into the next room and, finding his aide drunk as well, struck the man before grabbing a servant from the county office to help locate Huang Lui. Censor then yanked Huang Lui from his bed and berated him for indulging in hedonistic pleasures with the disaster ongoing. The unfortunate county magistrate Huang received a punch to the eye. He wouldn't be fit to appear in public for the next few days. Lian burst into laughter. When he finally caught his breath, he asked, Did Censor Rong really sleep with that woman? His aide winked. I heard. She woke with her clothes in disarray and bruises all over her body. She was crying and complaining about the pain. It seemed Censor Rong hadn't had a proper meal in quite some time. He went a bit overboard. Leon laughed again. Perhaps she lacks experience. This Rongqing may be reckless and rude, but he poses no real threat, his aide said, laughing with him. Once the flood recedes, he'll have no choice but to depart empty-handed, then everything will return to normal. All will be well. Lian shook his head. That won't be. If nothing changes, how will I rise in the ranks and replace Huang Lui? That bastard is so indecisive. It's clear he's wavering. There's a high chance he'll end up ruining things. Best for him and Rongqing to battle it out. Let them take care of each other. Go. Fetch me a brush and some paper. Okay, so it seems a bit obvious for Lian to be the one drawing the pictures, but this kind of implies that we're supposed to believe it's him. When Chubuchu and Rongqing returned to the lodgings at the relay station, they met Guang Shanhai on his way in. Neither Guang Shanhai nor Qiao Xian had attended the previous night's banquet for two reasons. First, bringing two expert martial artists as their guards would inevitably attract attention when they needed to keep a low profile. And second, if they were to be recognized, it would expose the involvement of the Shuyu Bureau, which would hinder their investigation. What did you find? Rongqing couldn't resist asking Guan Shanhai. Guang Shanhai glanced at Chubuchu. On receiving a nod, he said, The Lord Chief ordered me to investigate Yang Yun, the governor of Guangqian Commandery. Rong Qing was taken aback. Young Yang Yun, shouldn't we be investigating Huang Lue? If Huang Lue is corrupt, do you think Yang Yun is unaware? He's either feigning ignorance or an incompetent coward trapped under Huang Lue's thumb. Or perhaps he's the real leader. Whatever it is, he cannot escape blame. Rong Qing was stunned. He'd never considered the third possibility. Yang Yun's first wife died in childbirth over 10 years ago, Guang Shanhai reported. He married again, but his second wife bore him no children. She even urged him to take a concubine to ensure the continuation of the Yang family legacy, but Yang Yun insisted on remaining true to his second wife. To this day, he has no issue. He and his second wife must love each other dearly. Guan Shanhai shook his head. Over the past 2 days, I assumed a false identity, bribed the Yang family servants, and made up a few reasons to speak to them. Governor Yang spends most of his time in his study. He doesn't share a bedroom with his wife. Rong Qing sensed some oddness in this, but couldn't put his finger on it. 1 second. I realized that we never actually put down an injustice to service work. I'm between injustice to innocence and injustice to service worker because we don't know if the person that got put in the bed, the woman, if they were a maid or something in that, or just an innocent I'm gonna add in one to innocent anyway, just because she probably got dragged into that situation unawares or just okay. So that's at 22. I don't know if I'll put service worker because I don't know her situation, so we'll just leave it with innocent. Yeah. Chu clarified things for him. It's rare for a man, especially one of Yang Yun's age, to be uninterested in siring his own children. It'd be one thing if he was devoted to his wife. But if he doesn't even share a bedroom with her, we can safely dismiss that possibility. Rong Qing gasped in understanding. There's something strange about this Yang Yun. Once the insight struck him, it unleashed a torrent of thoughts. If Yang Yun is the culprit, Huang Lue won't escape unscathed. Last night, I was watching everything at the gathering closely. Most of the landlords seemed to dread my appearance, as if I was about to demand a pound of their flesh. But the Li and Ding families, the largest landlords in the county, and those who instigated the dispute last night, looked unconcerned. Of course, we are assuming that Bairong isn't lending people out. Of course, we are assuming that Bairong isn't lending people out. Yes. Perhaps they're already colluding with Huang Lue and embezzling the grain. There's also Wu Yi, the county magistrate. He drank more than anyone else last night. Yet, what has he done for relief efforts? He must be involved as well. Why, Deputy Magistrate Li Yan might be the only clean person in the entire county. Face pale with anger, Rong Qing continued. Yang Yun didn't attend the banquet last night. I'd say it's because he has a guilty conscience. Midway through their conversation, Xiao Xian returned as well. She was carrying a large sack, her expression oddly conflicted. Her brows were tightly knit, and she glanced again and again at the sack. She seemed to yearn to toss it away, yet she clutched it as if afraid someone would take it from her. The stomach-turning stench of rot followed her through the door. They dug up beneath the tree. What do you want to bet? Lord Chief, the results of the investigation you ordered. She placed the sack on the table and opened it carefully. Rong Qing's eyes grew round and his face drained of color. Within the sack lay a jumble of rags and robes, their original color indiscernible. But this was not the source of the stench. The smell came from the human remains, bloated and pale from immersion in the water, flesh still clinging to the bone beneath. Fingers, hands, hair, ribs, patches of rotting flesh that had slipped from the bone, and limbs that appeared to have been gnawed on by wild beasts. Every single one bore visible slash wounds. Rong Ching jerked his head away and rushed out of the room. A moment later, the sound of retching came from outside. I believe we are right. I knew it was going to be people. Chubachu remained composed. Wrap them up and have someone fetch a cup of water for Censor Wrong. Rong Ching had drunk plenty the night before, but he hadn't eaten much. After emptying the contents of his stomach until there was nothing but bile, he finally made his way back, one hand on the wall for support. Where did this come from? He asked shakily. Outside the city. The spot where you nearly drowned, said Qiao Xian. Rong Ching was stunned. You dug them up by the tree? So what the painting showed me was real. He took the water from Qiao Xian, but after a sip, a thought occurred to him. Did you wash your hands? Feng Xiao. Qiao Xian looked at him expressionlessly. No. Rong Ching had already swallowed some water. He couldn't even spit it out. His face instantly turned a vivid green. Seeing him on the verge of rushing out to vomit again, Xiao Xian grabbed him and dragged him back, clicking her tongue. You're a man. What are you doing being so fussy? Rong Ching longed to cry, but he had no tears. He turned his head away to avoid looking at the sack. How many corpses did you find? The flood receded slightly today. There was just barely enough room to stand by that tree. I uncovered these after just a little digging. There were more below them. If I kept digging, Xiaoxian paused, then said sharply, I feared I'd never reach the end. His lips quivered. Rong Ching didn't know what to say. At that moment, the station clerk arrived with a message. A child outside had asked the clerk to bring something in. The clerk produced a bamboo tube addressed to Rong Ching. Rong Ching tossed aside all the thoughts of his churning stomach and demanded, Where's the child? Bring him here quickly. The clerk ducked his head in apology. He's already run off. He only left the scroll. Take a look, my lordship. He hadn't missed the odd stench in the room and had stayed on the threshold, refusing to enter. Smart man. When Xiaoxian threw him a handful of copper coins, he set down the tube and happily excused himself. Copper coins! Rong Ching unsealed the bamboo tube and pulled out a tightly rolled paper. Unfurling it revealed yet another painting. The style was the same as the first two, but the brush strokes were much thicker this time. It looked to have been carelessly rolled up and stuffed into the bamboo tube directly upon completion. At the foot of a mountain sat a villa surrounded by trees. No guards stood near the villa gates, but on the steps squatted a large rat, almost half a pillar in height. Its tail curled behind it on the ground as it stared at the gates, and it leaned greedily forward, as if poised to dash in at any moment. Big rat, no millet you shall eat. For 3 long years you've grown, no care for us you've shown. Big rat, no meat you shall eat. For 3 long years you've grown, no kindness for us shown. Rong Ching recited, Is this another hint telling us to visit this villa? If the painting is accurate, the villa is surrounded by a dense forest, Chubachu replied. Assuming it's in an area unaffected by the flood, it can only be to the north of the city. Lines are taken from Big Rat, a poem in the section Heirs of the States, Ode of Way 2, from the Book of Songs, in the oldest collection of poetry in Chinese tradition. Lord Chief, Xiaoxian interjected, if I may, our most urgent task would be to discover who's been sending the paintings. They've sent 3 in a row to censor wrong, hinting at wrongdoing, but refuse to reveal their identity. Why continue skulking about in the dark? Perhaps they mean us ill and wish to lead us astray. But you also see now that all the hints were true, Rongqing countered. How else could you have brought back that sack? A pile of corpses isn't an explanation. If there's really something suspicious happening at the villa in this painting, it would be most heavily guarded. If you go rashly, you'll alert the enemy. Find it if you have the ability, but don't expect us to lead the charge. The Lord Chief didn't come here to do your job for you. Stunned, Rongqing flushed with shame. Enough, Chubachu said. Someone's already found the location for us. Pulled a piece of paper from his sleeve, then unfolded it and placed it on the table. Chishia Villa to the north of the city. The 9th night of the 9th month. Good for moon watching. Removing clothes. We'll await your arrival. Come alone. Let's share warmth. The writing was unruly without any signature, and the message made no sense. It was almost laughable. Yet this was the paper Li Shishi had stuffed into Chubachu's hand after teasing him the night before. All right. So we have that interesting pause before we start yet another adventure into chaos, which we will continue on Thursday, unless I completely lose my voice. I might just be deep voice and snuffly, but we will persevere. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. That is where we are going to stop tonight. I know it was longer and I'm getting really sleepy, so I don't know how long my post will be, but I'm enjoying this. I am. I hope you are too. I like how much intrigue this book has. Like, it's a very smart book. I like that. But anyway, to all those that you joined during the live stream, thank you very much for listening. I had a great time. To anyone who watches later, I hope you also enjoyed, and thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Good stream. I'm kind of worried about what they'll find. Yeah. I think we might potentially need a trigger warning, probably in the upcoming chapter or two, or upcoming stream or two, just because I have a feeling it's going to get pretty gruesome. But yeah, no, I kind of worried too. But yeah, good night. See you Thursday.